Howdy, ladies and gentlemen, good day and good evening. My name is David Toth, aka Breadbox, and today we are going to talk about Vocaloid. Now, it is a well-kept secret that I'm quite the fan of Vocaloid, as it were, and today we are going to discuss the songs that I hold closest to my heart. Now, I've intended to make this video for quite a while. I've intended to go about the process of narrowing down the songs that I hold closest to my heart. It has just been a bit of a hassle. Trying to script this video was a nightmare. I considered, rather, doing it as like limericks, or poetry, as I have done for a few off things in the past, and that all ultimately I decided was not the best course of action. So we are simply going to talk about it. We're simply going to talk like normal people and have a jolly old time doing so. So I would like to establish at the beginning here that I will not be doing like too many. I will not be doing too many rules. There will not be any one per producer. There will not be any limitations in who or what can be on the list. The only thing I state is that the song must be a Vocaloid song, a song that was composed to be a Vocaloid song. With those stipulations solely being that, this song will be less a reflection of what Vocaloid as a medium has to offer, and much more a reflection, quite simply, of the kind of music that I like, and the kind of music that will, or rather can, best describe me as a person. So, starting right off the bat here is with number 50, right at the top of the list, is going to be Lily of the Endless Night. Now, it's a little hard to tell here, because Kazuma Toda does not really do much in the way of ornamenting their videos. They have quite a plain style. But Lily of the Endless Night, I think, is a fantastic song. And to briefly get into why, it's quite simply that I think it is one of few pieces of more modern composition that really captures the spirit of older compositions. So it has a narrative, this narrative of Fukase, the speaker, and Lily, represented by Iya in the other songs, and goes through this lovely story about Fukase dealing with impermanence and their finite life, and Iya trying to comfort them. Of course, that is all done well and good. And of course, Kazuma Toda is a wonderful composer. The thing that will always stand out most when listening to Kazuma Toda's music is quite simply how she constructs a melody, and particularly how she harmonizes the vocals in various things. And I can go ahead and spoil that there's going to be lots of Kazuma Toda on this list because she is a marvel. She is a treat, as it were. So, yeah, Lily of the Endless Night has Kazuma Toda's fantastic composition and all in this emotional shell. And of course, what I would like to highlight, as I have highlighted many times before, is I will briefly play here a little bit of the leitmotif that she uses here. So at the end of Lily of the Endless Night, you have this really beautiful little light piano, and just keep it in the back of your head as we go forward. Beautiful. It's a very simple line. It's a very simple little melody, and the simple melodies are always oftentimes the most impactful. But the way that Kazuma Toda goes on to evolve and transform that little leitmotif into being something really special as the songs goes on is wonderful. Yeah, Lily of the Endless Night is fantastic and is my 50th favorite Vocaloid song. The next one is definitely a different thing than Lily of the Endless Night. So something that we'll see as we continue to examine things here is there are a couple different grooves with which one could say a song typically appeals to me, right? There's compositional grooves like Lily of the Endless Night, where the mere construction of it as a piece of music, the mere way that it is composed, the style with which it's done, and the cadences, the tuning, things like that are enough, almost on their own, to qualify them for as being a phenomenal piece of music. Let alone, of course, the details that Kazuma Toto then puts in. Another one of the grooves that we'll see as we keep going is songs like this. This song is Sayoko by Mikito P. It is quite famous, and it is quite famous for being just soul-crushing. Sayoko is a very unpleasant song for the sensitive and for the faint of heart. I mean, like, it's not as though Sayoko is particularly trying to offend. It is a soft ballad that is quite phonically and melodically pleasing. It's just that Sayoko, better than many pieces of music that exist, captures the sensation of, like, a whole body aimless depression better than most pieces of music. And the chorus in particular is completely hopeless. It goes through this monologue, this soliloquy, in which it just goes through, it just very thoroughly demonstrates the attitude and the feeling of being useless. I guess I should note, just in case, that this will be also be one of a few songs on in this collection that deals with self-harm. So, tread lightly if that's something that offends you. But yeah, Sayoko, it's almost on that topic, actually. It breaches things like self-harm and other, like, horrid, depressive topics with this malaise. Like, the chorus of the song is where the self-harm is alluded to first. And even then, it's not made a big deal of. It's just another thing. It's just another fact about this girl's life and this heavy drone that is her describing herself and describing the things that she feels. And it all comes together to make Sayoko this really, really pure expression of aimlessness. There aren't many songs that are strictly negative, so to speak, that I think have a lot of value. Not only songs, but pieces of art. I think it is very hard to make tragedy good. Very often times, in the attempt to create good tragedy, you simply end up creating a sort of drony, whiny sort of piece of music. But what Sayoko does correctly, and there's other things that will be like it. As I said, this is one of the grooves of music that I quite enjoy. What Sayoko does correctly is that it is not trying to remedy or give effect to the cause of the song's depression. It is merely expressing that deep, deep hole and that deep, deep feeling of unease. And in that, it does it beautifully. Mikito P is really interesting. Mikito P is a very varied composer. For everything that they are capable of and everything they have done, they have demonstrated many times a very wide compositional ability. There's songs like Sayoko, and then there's songs that are incredibly happy, like some other things that they've made. It all just goes to show that they're a very talented composer, and this won't be the last we'll see of dear old Mikito P. But moving on past Sayoko, again, we're going to run the gambit of songs and emotional states as we go into Otsukimi Recital. Now, Otsukimi Recital is a very different song from Sayoko. Otsukimi Recital is, of course, by Jin of the Kagura Project, and is a very inspiring piece of music. So, it's not purely happy, and because very few things can manage to be purely happy or purely sad well. But I've talked at length about Otsukimi Recital in various other things, so I'll try and keep it brief. But I quite simply think that the arc that the characters go on through the course of this song, especially in context to where they are and what they do throughout the rest of the project, is the Kagura Project, which this is of course a part of, is really wonderful. I think that Momo Kisaragi, the main character, being this beacon of light, is very powerful, considering where she is in other parts of her life, considering where she is in Kisaragi Attention, considering where she is in earlier parts of the story that are not dictated through song. I think that the way that she tries to help Hibiya because of what she sees of her brother in him and all these other tiny things built to make the rather simple story of a girl trying to help a sad boy be less sad into a very moving story. It also helps that I think of the many songs in the Kagura project, Otsukimi Recital is one of the best composed. I quite like the all the send-ups to like classic J-pop and idol-esque songs that Otsukimi Recital has. It's definitely composing itself in a deliberate way to allude to those things, obviously because Momo is an idol. But yeah, I mean, it's just a pleasant song. Coming off the heels of something like Sayoko, and even something like Lily of the Endless Night, it's really just a good time. And it is an earned good time. That is the best way to say what is good about this song. It's, by the end of the song, it is quite resolute and quite happy, but it gets there after going on this journey of having to deal with more negative and strong emotions. And at the end of the day, it's great. And what the part on screen right now, the second chorus, I think is the strongest part of the song. It really just contextualizes Hibiya, Amamiya Hibiya, as being a child and showing what is the problem there. Yeah, it's a great song. Otsukimi Recital's ballin'. This is not a premiere. I know. I often talk in such a way that it seems as though I'm reading from a script. But believe me, if I was reading from a script, I would sound a lot more perfect than I do now. Next song is Piero by Kei. Now, Piero is really, really cool. I made a video a long time ago about Piero, and I think that Piero is really, really... I think the strength of Piero is in its message. It has where the previous songs we've talked about have either been really strong, hitting at really good emotional cores, or otherwise have been building with themes and with characters to make simple statements more powerful. Piero is different. Piero is actually saying something rather complex in and of its own right, and it's through its ultimate message alone that it ends up carrying so much weight. So what is Piero about? Piero is about a clown, so to speak. It is about a clown trying to cheer up a girl, a third party. And the clown, is a clown. They juggle around, they be happy, they jump and fall, and they try and do many things to cheer up the person. But the person continues to be upset. And the ultimate... This is all surface. This is all what is like literally happening in the text of the song. But the ultimate meaning behind this is that ultimately, by the end of the piece, the girl says that there's no cause with which hurting yourself and causing pain on your own part is worthy. If I were to laugh and have fun at the results of you or anyone else having to take burden upon themselves, then that is not an earned happiness. Then that happiness is dirtied. It's muddied by the fact that it came at the cost of something else. True happiness should not be a trade-off. It should not be, I take and you lose. Happiness should not be a zero-sum game. It should be something that is wonderful unilaterally. The clown is, it is literally a clown, but it is more metaphorically representative of people who try and help other people very sincerely, people who like others and want to make the world better, but the means by which they go about this is through self-sacrifice. Piero is a song commenting upon heroism. I don't know why I said that word like that, upon heroism and self-sacrifice, right? It says that there is no victory gained through hurting yourself. Putting yourself at a deficit is not being heroic, it's just sad. Even when being secondary does result in better outcomes for other people, that happiness is tainted. It is not as pure and is not as wonderful as happiness that is gained for everyone. And I think that message is really good. It's sort of playing around with the ideas, the classic ideas of like the Seigi no Mikata. Anyone who has read or watched Fate Stay Night will kind of understand where this song is coming from, right? I think it rather simply and rather beautifully, the composition's fantastic as too, behind all this message, everything with the message. I think it really touches upon a great idea and has a message that I think is quite useful and quite good for the world. It's really easy to equate heroism to self-sacrifice, but they're not exactly the same thing, and that's what Piano is all about. Kino is great. It's almost like it's Kino because he's Kino. Oh no, it's K. Piero's by K. See, Kino is Rogue Glow and In the Rain. Yeah, Piero's by K, and K did a really good job. The song's great. Moving on, this one too. There's not much I have to say, right? Like, come on. Is there literally anything for me to say here? I'm pretty sure I've talked about Tomei Answer and the details therein, everything to do with the song, more time, for like a cumulative, it has to be hours, right? If not talking literally about Tomei Answer, talking about what makes Tomei Answer good, the elements of the song, the way it characterizes people, and all of that make it such a powerful piece of music. I am fairly certain at this point, and people are probably tired of hearing me talk about Kisaragi Shintaro and the journey that he goes on with Ayano in this song, but I mean, it merits mentioning that Tomei Answer is a wonderful, wonderful piece of music. Even outside of the Kagero project, even disconnecting one from the rest of all of the elements that tie into it and make it a better song, completely in a vacuum, Tomei Answer tells a very great story. A great story with many layers. It talks about a boy who is rather isolated and upset with the world, learning to slowly learning, with the help of someone who cares about him, that maybe life isn't so bad. But in his malaise, in his overwhelming sort of self-deprecation, he fails to notice the pain of the people around him, specifically of the very person that's trying to help him, and only is really able to understand her when it's too late, when her own problems that she put aside come back to haunt her. You know, if we go back to K and Piero, the song we were just talking about, right? Ayano is the clown in this scenario. Ayano is attempting to help Shintaro. She really cares and wants him to be better, but it's at the cost of herself. She is helping Shintaro, but she is not letting him in. She is at once juggling this altruism with the pain in her heart, until ultimately it results in this scenario where everything is lost, where everything went poorly, and there's nothing that can be gained anymore because Ayano's gone. And there's more to that, of course. There's, of course, so many more layers to everything that's happening in the Kagero project. But the point I'm trying to make is that even isolated, even when you separate the layers of the many things going on at once, Tomei Answer as a bubble is still really well put together. I mean, like, and that's all disregarding things like its aesthetic being fantastic. The whole paper black and white style that Wan Yampu is doing here is gorgeous, and obviously suits the story and suits the tone quite well. At the end of the day, Tomei Answer's just it's just great, man. There's not much more I could say. If you want to hear me gush about Tomei Answer, then watch any of the many videos I've made about it. It's good. We got a lot to do here. We're moving on. Tomei Answer's great. Next song, I probably won't have to talk about for very long, because there isn't a whole lot to say. So, I talked about grooves, right? I talked about how there's things that I like that are compositional marvels. There's things that are these encapsulations of pure negativity that I think are really special. There's things that grow and build to being something greater than the sum of their parts. And now we're discovering another groove. There's less of these because I think it's harder for this to be really good, but in addition to the songs that I think are pure expressions of grief and depression, there's something really special, I think, to be gained from songs that are just happy. I think that Happy Synthesizer by Easy Pop, which is what this next song is goddamn fantastic. Now, I think it is really understated, because people hold their wounds closer to their heart than their joys. It's true. People are more forthcoming with the things that make them happy. It is it is more open that one expresses their joy. That's just how people are. And as such, I think we tend to value in art things that are able to reach into those cracks and understand that negativity, right? Songs that understand our grief, that are really good expressions of it, end up becoming things that are really special to people. Just look at something like Lost Ones Weeping, which is not on this list, by the way. but just consider something like Lost Ones Weeping and why people like it. It's because they see themselves in the song, and that's all well and good. I think equally important, equally special to things that really understand your negativity are things that really understand what it's like to be happy. I think Happy Synthesizer is crazy. I've often equated Happy Synthesizer, when I've described it to people, as Happy Synthesizer is like taking a freaking amphetamine. When you listen to Happy Synthesizer, it is such a cool distillation of just unabashed joy that I cannot help but be in a better mood when Happy Synthesizer is playing. When Happy Synthesizer is playing, it is just a joyous, joyous occasion. I think it really just captures. I mean, the lyrics of the song are like nonsense, right? This is entirely conveyed and constructed through its composition. It is so effortlessly happy. It is so unabashedly, no strings attached, joyful. And I think that is extremely, extremely underrated as a concept. Other songs like that I would equate to this is, honestly, there's a lot of this is moving past the realm of Vocaloid, but I think a lot of good idol music is kind of like that too. The Idolmaster song Start with Amami Haruka, I would say, is another song that is just, it is so joyful. Girls Be Ambitious, another Idolmaster song, I think also hits on that quite well. It's really, I think there's an art to expressing joy, to synthesizing happiness, as the title of the song is, and that's not to be understated. I think it's quite powerful. It's quite emotional. Just because the emotion I'm experiencing is different when I listen to Happy Synthesizer than when I listen to Sayoko does not make Happy Synthesizer any less powerful for still drawing out such a strong reaction in me. So yeah, Happy Synthesizer is great. This is another category of music that I am quite fond of, and I don't actually know if I have any pure happy songs on the way. No, I got some anyway. Well, we'll see going on how that evolves, but Happy Synthesizer is perfect. Now, again, more obligatory Kagura project, and with more obligatory Kagura project comes more obligatory summarizing. Now, I don't actually think that when I discussed Otsukimi Recital and Tome Answer that I was any more brief than talking about the other songs, but I'm really going to attempt to be brief as I talk about Shiso Word here, for many reasons. But yeah, Shiso Word is another song in the Kagura project, and it's another great piece of music. It follows the journey of a single character through her entire life, from when she was like 5 to when she was, I don't know, if I had to guess how old Kido is at the end of the song, maybe in her mid-20s. So I say entire life, that was being hyperbolic, but the entire of her life as it pertains to the story. And it's just a fantastic piece of music. It's just a very pure expression of pain as portrayed by a child, of various losses and what it takes to recover from them. And that second part is what is important, is that we see, like at a glance, what the pressures and the sort of anxieties that come with being Kido Tsubomi. But more importantly than that, we see the things that inspire her. We see how important it is for characters like Rin and Ayano to enter her life. We see how important it is at the very end that the Mecha Kushidan came into her life to replace Ayano and Rin when they went away. And at the end of the day, it is just a gorgeous piece of music. Furthermore, as I'm sure you can see right now, Shidu is cracked. This is so beautifully animated. It is a feast, truly, in every regard. I think it is a visual feast, it is a compositional feast, I think the song sounds fantastic, and it's an emotional feast, because it really strikes on a lot of the general ideas, a lot of the general sort of overarching topics that make the Kagura project what it is in terms of its characterization and the themes therein. But yeah, Shiso Word's a good song. I'm going to move on because I've talked about Shiso Word a lot, as I've talked about every Kagura Project song a lot. The next song is not Shiso Word. The next song is the start of my of what I would like to call Count the Nikki songs. So I have expressed before that Nikki is probably my favorite overall composer. You know, I have other composers that I like a lot. Other people make good, you know, they have singles that really speak to me, right? This is a different story. Error is not, well, this song is Error, but Nikki is not a person who creates good singles. Nikki has a sound that is simply unparalleled. There is no way for anyone's body of work to have the same emotional effect on me that Nikki does. I think Nikki is so skilled at crafting pieces of music that really tug at the heart, that really put your soul in a vice and squeeze. And Error is one of them. Error is, of course, an incredibly famous song. It is extremely well known. It is covered by every person to ever exist. And what is Error? Error is a song documenting the thoughts of someone as they die. There's a couple ways you can interpret the song, I suppose, but I think the most common one, and the one that is at least most striking on the ideas that the text provides, is that Error is, it is the last emotional wisps left behind by someone who is fading. I think there is a horrible tragedy to losing yourself. And I suppose in a certain way this could be, it doesn't have to be death per se, it could be dementia, any sort of loss, but from the perspective of the person who is in danger, who is in pain. I think the verbiage combined with just the extreme belting that the song has all throughout it really, really creates this agony, right? You look at the chorus, and it has the lyrics, or the lead up to the chorus, I think in particular, is tough as you go on towards the end. And you get to things like, "Are you there? I can't see you. All I want to do is breathe and live. Just live." It distills down this decay of a person until they are left with naught but the urges to keep living and to be with the people they care about. And they scream it. I think there's two real ways you can handle really potent emotionality, right? And they're different. One is not better than the other. They're quite simply different. You can either go the way of the ballad and have, a sad song like Sayoko. Sayoko is an extremely sad song, and that's effective. It really is. But depending on what emotion you're attempting to convey, you can go the way of Error. And Error is something else. When you go the way of Error, and for another example that is not Vocaloid, I would say the song Dry Flower really gets this good. Where if you take the, building, festering feeling in your core, and you really let that go, and you don't go soft, you go hard, you scream out what it is that is affecting you, you get a very different kind of moving. And that's what Error is. Error is extremely effective because of how it is conveying the feelings. The feelings that are in Error are present in lots of things, but it's how Error deals with that. It's how Error expresses it through this force that makes it so strong. Nikki is a great composer. We'll be seeing lots of Nikki continuing on. And now, after Error, is a song that I think everyone will probably know, because this song is extremely wildly popular with people nowadays, is Hated by Life Itself by Kanzaki Iori. Kanzaki Iori is great. I think a very big tragedy is that I think Kanzaki Iori is kind of a 1 to 2 hit wonder. Chances are most people have only heard Hated by Life Itself and I Want to Be Your God. And Hated by Life Itself and I Want to Be Your God are both good songs. This song is Hated by Life Itself. And it's great. I think this is a fantastic song, but I think it is unfortunate because Kanzaki Iori is a really, really gifted composer in general, and we'll be seeing more Kanzaki Iori songs as we go along. This is my least favorite of his compositions, which is still to say it's really good, of course. I think what's really special about Hated by Life itself are two things. First is the tuning of Miku. I think Miku is tuned, Kanzaki Iori tunes Miku really uniquely. Miku has this very gruff, sort of harsh tone to her, and it really fits with Kanzaki Iori's compositional style. I think that a lot of people, when a lot of people cover Kanzaki Iori songs, they go at it from this more soft, melodic approach, and it's not wrong to sing it like that, but I think there's really something to the edge that Miku has when Kanzaki Iori tunes her that's quite great. So that's the first step. The first step is the musicality of it all is quite fantastic. And the other thing about this song is that its message. Hated by Life itself has a great message that I think is... I don't want to say it's missed on people, because... I don't want to say that in general, because I haven't quite seen enough opinions, but I think it is an often misconstrued song, is that Kanzaki... Hated by Life itself is expressing, yes, the sentiment of people, to people who are hated by life itself. So, in their own words, they're singing about, these feelings of detachment. But much like a lot of these negative pieces, it's transformative. And the real important part is the ending of the piece. The ending of the piece where it comes through that what is truly important is not lambasting the world. It is not expressing this hatred. It is instead expressing love, right? The end of the song has the speaker say that through all of the grief, through all of the pain that has left my mouth, speaking and singing this song, what was really important was not any of that. It was me expressing not how we are hated by life itself, but how even though we are hated by life itself, I still have you. It's about the connection, and the value of that connection is the most important thing, and I think it's great. And at the end, the last chorus is fully about that. It's forget hated by life itself, forget all of the negativity and the hatred. Let me tell you how much I care. Let me tell you how much I care. And it all culminates into the ending being just this, bam, 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 artillery fire of live, 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 please keep living. And that's great. It's exactly what's on the screen right now. Yeah, I think that's beautiful. I think that the journey that this piece of music takes you on is quite good, and I think Hated by Life itself is well deserving its praise. Of course, I don't need to tell you that, because everyone likes Hated by Life itself, but it's great. And could you watch your mouth, because you're gonna spoil the list. Shh, about the good Kanzaki Iori songs, could I? You might know something I don't. But moving past Hated by Life itself, I have a song that I've talked about a little bit in the past, and that's Bad Bye. Bad Bye falls into the Sayoko category of it being this piece of music that is very oppressive. So, content warning, I suppose, for anyone who wants to listen to Bad Bye. Bad Bye not only depicts self-harm, but ends in suicide. So, what is Bad Bye, superficially? Bad Bye tells the story of a person who, in their youth, who had a tumultuous childhood from the implications, but at least through that tumultuation, which I think is a word I just made up, I made up just now, through that tumultuation, they were at least successful. They were successful, and through that success, there was a bubble built around them where they could be content, at least limited, because of the structures that were put in place by school, by various institutions in their youth that let them see success. However, they've reached a stage in their adulthood where that bubble is popped, where now it's not simply good enough to be smart, it's not simply good enough to be talented, no one cares, and they are alone because they were always empty. And Bad Bye is this expression of helplessness, but it's not done through the same lens as Sayoko, right? Sayoko was this tired piece. It was this exhausted piece of music that is expressing true grief and agony, whereas Bad Bye is not quite doing the same thing. Bad Bye is much more aggressive. It is screaming about how inept one feels at themselves for the many problems that they face. And ultimately, the speaker has no solution. They're lashing out, but the problems that they face come from the fact that they never understood to begin with. They never understood themselves and the anguish that they faced until ultimately it's too late and the song ends in them killing themselves. And that's bad. That's a bad one. I think Bad Bye is a very potent expression of grief. That's a loud thing outside. Yeah. Oh my gosh, what is happening? is a comet coming out of the sky. But anyway, yeah, Bad Bye, it sucks. I think what makes it special, though, is how thoroughly it expresses how much it sucks. It is such a powerful scream of hatred against oneself, and I think that it takes a heavy amount of skill to construct that, to build that cage around yourself, to point the knife so thoroughly at one's throat that nothing else does it quite as well as Bad Bye, and that's its appeal. But moving on, because we can't be sad forever, moving on, we're gonna have a song that is still definitely, that is emotional, but in a different way. And as Kudai spoiled, because he's a dirty, rotten cheater, this song is my actual favorite Kanzaki Iori song, and that's Bound by Freedom itself. So, this song is obviously, phonetically, in its name, quite similar to Hated by Life itself, but I think it has a much more interesting message. I think that it is ultimately expressing this fascinating, really, really interesting idea that touches on one of the themes of living that I like the most. And that is about what in the goddamn is happening outside. I'm going to blow myself up. But Bound by Freedom itself touches upon responsibility. That is its main message, right? Bound by Freedom itself is about how its narrative, it does have a narrative, but the narrative is loose. It's not exactly clear what is happening in the song. It seems to document, though it could be, everything I'm saying could be metaphorical. It's not clear, but because it doesn't really matter. But it documents a connection between two people in which one was dependent on the other and now they're free, right? It isn't necessarily, now you don't need to read, you can interpret this in many ways, right? It could be that it is a literal relationship between two people. It could be a concept that is the relationship between a person and a concept. The main idea, focus though, is that someone was dependent on someone or something to offer them guidance, to keep them going, to keep them living. And that connection is cut. They're no longer in a state where people are going to tell you what to do, what to feel, how to think, how to live. And instead, you need to do it yourself. And that's why the title was an oxymoron, right? Because to be bound is to be chained, it is to be restricted. But you were restricted by freedom, which is the ability to do everything, right? So the song is about how when you are living a prescribed life, when the path that you're walking is charted out for you, it becomes really difficult to make your own decisions. The act of trying to make your own path and trying to understand yourself and what you want is really hard when, up to this point, you've had people tell you these things for you. And again, it does not literally have to be people prescribing your life. It can be a set of ideals that you live by. It can be a set of, it can be faith. It can be any number of things that is simply informing what you do with your life. And when that's gone, when you have the ability to choose now, it is wonderful as it is frightening. You really have to embrace that horrible, wonderful, and terrifying freedom. And I ultimately think this is I think it's a very powerful message. I think personal responsibility is one of the most important things anyone could ever have, as I think should be obvious by the various other topics I've broached in various other things. But Moreover than that, I think that it is expressing a valuable concept in a more nuanced way than Hated by Life itself. This song is not nearly as popular because none of Kanzaki Yori's compositions are as popular as Hated by Life itself, but I think Bound by Freedom itself is a very wonderful piece of music. And to anyone who has not gone out and listened to it, gone out and read the lyrics, go do so. I mean, it sounds very similar to Hated by Life itself. Kanzaki Yori, same thing with I Want to Be Your God, does have a little bit of a compositional rut that they fall into sometimes, but it's great. Yes, Rosina, The Summer That Saturates is also a really good song. That song's interesting. It almost like, I'm trying to remember the text there. I think is that the song that like depicts a crime? I think it might be. But anyway, Bound by Freedom itself is great. Kanzaki Yori is a very talented composer outside of the two things that everyone knows him for. and now, moving past that, we get to play the game of Find the Neru. So much like there's going to be a lot of Nikki songs, much like there is going to be a lot of Kasumura Toto pieces on my this list, this collection. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of Nikki songs. Now, when I say there's going to be a lot of Nikki songs, I do have to stipulate that I think Nikki as a composer is very fascinating. When you look at Nikki's discography and his track record, I think you can very clearly draw a line between his first two, maybe three albums, and then everything else that he's made. And I think that pretty much everything from Nikki's second album, I believe it is, the How to Sekai Seifuku album, which of course this is the title song of, is great. I think that entire album is beautiful. That is peak Nikki. Now, let's talk about How to World Domination. First of all, compositional marvel, right? I think that Nikki tunes Rin and Len the best out of anyone. I think that is very fair to say that Nikki is probably the best tuner of Rin and Len, as far as I'm concerned. The way that he tweaks their voice, the way that he gives them this sort of deeper tone and more harsh tone, really complements his style of music and is a sound that I think just in general is great. How to World Domination is great. It's a very good song. It touches on, I think it is in many ways the quintessential Nikki song, because it touches upon like many of the ideas, many of the concepts that Nikki would go on to talk about in a lot of his music, in Lost Ones Weeping, in Re-Education, in Terrorism, and in I Want to Be a Kind Person. You know, these ideas fan out into Nikki's music. Nikki definitely had a voice, a certain voice that he wanted to express at this point in time. And I think that How to World Domination is only limited in that I think other songs that Nikki has made, sort of tackle these themes in more nuanced ways. They tackle the themes of alienation from society, sort of ennui caused by the school system and one's own limitations in a... There's other pieces that I think have a little more to say conclusively than this song does, but one cannot deny the directing from Shidu, and that the composition and directing in tandem create a crazy powerful experience. You know, this final chorus where Azuma and the guy, who I don't remember because he's not the peak of female perfection that is Azuma here. When they dye their hair and don the masks and they put on that uniform and they're screaming about how they're going to reject this world that has forced them to be how it is. It is such a strong sentiment that even though it is somewhat childish, even though that there's many things that problems I could have with it, there's many more nuances and other things, it's still just great. You know, I think the imagery, the composition are what kind of alone almost make World Domination How To so good. I think that with Shidu's directing and with Nedu's composition, almost anything, the song could have been about almost anything. And we'll see, as I said, we'll see these ideas distilled and done quite a little bit better as we go along. But to start with, World Domination How To is great. Nedu is great, always was great. I hope they keep making music sometime. The next song is More Kagura Project. And you know what More Kagura Project means? It means more skimming. See, it's interesting. Do I keep saying Nigi? That's hilarious. I'm talking about Neru. Nigi's good too. I like Nigi more. But that's besides the point. Today, kids, we're going to talk about More Kagura Project. And you know what talking about the Kagura Project means? It means skimming, because I have talked about the Kagura Project enough, goddammit. I have earned the right to not talk about the Kagura Project. But my next favorite song, what number is this? I haven't been saying the number, but okay. Shinigami Record is my 38th favorite song. To give everyone a position in the top 50 as we've been working our way down. Shinigami Record is great. I mean, I've said everything there is to say. Azumi Kozakura is a fantastic character. I think that distilled, she is definitely one of my favorite characters in the Kagura Project, but I of course already talked about that as well. I think what makes Shinigami Record so great, in simple terms, is that I think it's compositionally almost more like something Mothi would make than Jin, right? It has a very simple melody, and as such, it ends up feeling almost more like a fairy tale, which I mean is definitely the intention behind the aesthetic, right? In the same way that something like Servant of Evil or Daughter of Evil, a lot of the Mothi pieces benefit from having only a couple melodies that just repeat. It makes it feel like a story. It makes it feel like this fable, right? I think that tonally works really well in Shinigami Record's favor, and of course, just the building emotion as it's telling the story of Azumi, right up to the end where the dam breaks, right? Up to this moment in the PV, in the song, it has been Azumi expressing her grief, expressing her loneliness, expressing all these things that make I'm practically the Kagura Project 23. I hate that comment. It's Azumi expressing all these things that have made her herself, right? Until you get to this just burst where the dam breaks and it's just too much to take, which happens right here. And that's gorgeous. Jin does such a good job at telling this immortal monster's story and conveying it in such a way that it really hits. And compositionally, like I said, this fairy tale, this sort of simple repeating structure, is not something that we've seen on this list yet, but is a different compositional style that I like quite a lot. So Shinigami Record's good. I'm not going to talk about much about it. You can easily find me talking more about it if you want. Speaking of, you could easily find me talking about it more than if you want. I'm going to say like 3 sentences, right? That's how much you've earned. That's how much there is. I could possibly say more about Lost Time Memory. Lost Time Memory is my next favorite song. Let's see. Let's do my very, very quick 3 sentences here. It is a perfect piece of music. It is one of the best PVs ever created for any song. It finishes the arc of Kisaragi Shintaro that was started in Tomei Answer and does it beautifully while accepting loss and grief, which is the entire point of the Kagura Project. My 3rd sentence was a bit of a run-on there, but yeah, I mean, moreover than even anything else, I'm sorry, I've said everything my heart can say about Lost Time Memory. It's perfect, it's great, it's beautiful. Every adjective I could possibly say about good is good in Lost Time Memory. I just think ultimately that as we go along the list, of course, it is only number 37 of 50, but something I guess I should have prefaced with is that these are my top 50, but I know like 800 Vocaloid songs. That's hyperbolic, but I know many hundreds of Vocaloid songs. The top 50 is very good. I like all of these songs quite a lot. Yeah, Lost Time Memory is a masterpiece. You don't need me to tell you that. There you go, Lost Time Memory. I'm moving on. It's Lost Time Memory, man. Moving on past Lost Time Memory, we have a very different type of song. Next is Letter Song by Doriko. Doriko is great. Doriko is, of course, an old composer, and Letter Song is my favorite piece of composition by them. Letter Song is fascinating. It's a very simple piece in terms of what it's doing and what it's saying. However, I just think that the actual experience of it therein is great. So what is Letter Song? Pulling out the thesaurus for good. Yeah, that's really what it's like to explain Lost Time Memory. Letter Song is a song about this girl in high school writing a letter to herself in 10 years in the future. So it is her, pondering. The song is this letter. It is her expressing her feelings in the present and pondering what it's like growing up. And it is, I think the implication is sort of that it is that the experience of the song is that the person in the present is reflecting on this letter that they received from themselves in the past. And this song touches on a theme that I like quite a lot, that we will see in certain other songs by a certain Harumaki Gohan later on in the list. And that's sort of the beauty of youth. Or rather, not the beauty, the simplicity of youth. There's lots of stories. Take Yotsuba, one of the most famous manga ever, for example, that touch upon, and I adore this as a story element, as a theme. Touch upon this idea that there is a simplicity inherent to being young. There is a innocence and a wonder that tends to erode as we grow older, and oftentimes for adults that are stuck in some sort of rut, that have become jaded with the way that the world works as they have matured. The best remedy is to look back to the past and see youth and see what it was like to simply enjoy things. And through that, through that spark, you can carry it with you into the future. And that's really what this song is about. And I think there's a lot of nuance to it too, because the idea is definitely that the speaker is motivated by themselves in the past, that the idea of themselves 10 years ago is something that's pushing them forward and something that they rely on. But the ending of the song is, I think, adds quite a nice layer of complexity to it, where the song ends with the speaker saying, like, dear me in the future, dear me 10 years from now, if you have found happiness, remember that as I'm writing you right now, life is actually kind of tough. So I hope that you did become happy. And if you did, if you managed to become happy, I hope that you can spare a thought for me who's suffering right now. Which I think is where really the complexity of the song comes in, because, as I said, the main track of the song is the speaker saying how happy they are, how wonderful it is to be alive and to have friends. But as the song goes on, you get this thing where it is more about the desire to be happy. They talk about how I wonder where I will be. I wonder where my friends will be. I wonder if the connections I have were going to last. And yeah, to wrap it up in this coda of, I am not really happy, but I want to be happy, and I hope that you become happy. It's such a beautiful expression of hope directed towards oneself that I think Doriko really nails. Letter Song, I think, is a great piece of music. Thoroughly recommended to everyone. I wrote lyrics to it a long time ago that Will Stetson will never sing. Moving on is another song that is definitely a very simple piece of music that I think is particularly dear to me, and that's 1/6 Out of Gravity by Vocaloid P. Now, 1/6 Out of Gravity, this is a very simple song. I think that the appeal of it is in Vocaloid P's use of, it's in their metaphor and simile here. So, what is 1/6 Out of Gravity about? It is about a person trying to help another person. It is not specifically about what they do in the act of helping someone, but it is about the desire to help another person. And the metaphor that the song uses is being out of gravity. 1/6 out of gravity is this desire that is expressed to the song to take someone into space where they will weigh less, right? And it's all metaphorical, where the weight is not the important thing is not literally weighing less, because who cares? It's about the emotional weight. It's this desire to lift the burdens from someone else. It's this desire to take someone that you really care about and do whatever you can to make them happy. And hopefully, it might not be possible to save someone. It might not be possible to literally step into someone's life and say, I have all the answers. I'm going to help you. I'm going to take you where you got to be, everything that you worry about, all of your grievances, get them out. We're going to fix things. That's not really possible because that's not how life works. But what the song posits, rather beautifully, I think, is this idea that I might not be able to save you. It might not be possible for us to find, like, true happiness simply through wanting the world to be better. However, maybe I can at least reduce your weight by a sixth. And it's like this really funky metaphor, you know, it's this really like funny almost phrasing, but I think the intention there comes through quite beautifully. It's perhaps I can't save you. Perhaps I can't make everything that you worry about go away, but I can help a little bit, right? Surely all of us, if we really want to, can help a little bit. Surely everyone can make just a little bit of a difference in someone else if you really want to and if you care about them. And I think that message is beautiful, right? It contrasts something like, or rather it goes hand in hand, not contrasts, with something like Piero, where Piero says that you shouldn't give up yourself. You should not put yourself at a loss for someone else because that isn't real happiness. Well, similarly, sort of critiquing but reconstructing the idea of the hero is perhaps you can't always save people because people can really only save themselves, to be honest. You can't always save people, but you can do something. People are capable of helping each other and doing just tiny things for them. And maybe that isn't going to change the world, but that doesn't mean it's not meaningful. 1/6 Out of Gravity is a very simple song, but I think it is I think it's very sweet is a good way I could describe it. It's not overly complex, but it's very sincere. It's very sincere and very loving. It's very kind. I adore this piece of music quite a lot. Very dear to my heart. Moving on is another weird song, and this is Lent Lily by Zieg. So I think of Zieg's compositions, Lent Lily is one of their more famous ones, but Lent Lily is to start with, it is most strikingly a very interesting composition. It has this construction to it that I think is very unique. It's a very unique sound. I was worried about the screen flash for a second there. It has a very unique sound. The soundscape in it is beautiful. It's almost more like something that like Yorushika or Enbuna would do, and in terms of this soundscape that's wide and very filled with something, right? That's filled with noises, and the song takes this very interesting approach where the song is, to describe its literal text, is from the perspective of someone who is depressed. Someone who is depressed expressing their grief alongside another person. You know, much like a lot of the songs that we've discussed thus far have been. And I think what really pushes Lent Lily over the edge into being this beautiful, beautiful piece of music is the turnaround in the end. So most of the song is a nice expression of grief, as nice as an expression of depression and grief can be, right? But the end has this wonderful part where the speaker is a revelation, right? They say, I got it, I realize. This world sucks. Everything sucks. But you don't suck, and I like you. So maybe if we could die together, if I could die by your side, I would be happy. I could get out of this awful, awful world and still be by the side of someone that I love. The speaker has this, it's like a brain blast, right? They're like, I got it. And the second party, they laugh. It's really simple. They just laugh and go, but I don't want to die. And that puts everything into context for the speaker. That, of course, like, I just wanted to escape. And I was trying to contextualize my own fears by including you and assume that you empathize with me. But it ultimately comes around once they have this conversation that, just as I would be happy dying by your side, just as escaping and finally turning everything off, so long as I'm with you, would be fine by me, that maybe I can keep living so long as I have you with me too. So it's really just the Lily is, in its whole totality, really just this nice expression of love. I think it is a very beautiful, simple expression of the power of human connection. And I think that Zieg just does a very good job at creating this atmosphere that really conveys that message. It's a great piece of music. Totally recommend it. It's not nearly as popular as it should be. I don't know what this next song is. This next song is... Oh, well, that's what the next song is. Yeah, what is it now? We're back to the Jin hour. We're back to the Jin to win it. We're back to the I don't have anything to say about the Kagero project anymore. It's Summertime Record. What's good about Summertime Record? It's the culmination of everything. Summertime Record is the ending of the Kagero project, and with that, it takes forward all of those feelings and carries them into the future. Summertime Record takes place from the perspective of Haruka Kokonose, and it expresses rather beautifully what it's like to be at the end, what it's like to have experienced such horrible, heart-wrenching agony, and to keep living with it. I think it really kind of, as a whole, encapsulates everything what the Kagero project was about. The lyrics have many allusions to various points in the story. There's and the ideas therein, right? There's the points where it says, like, there's a war to fight, but we'll fight it together. If you're lonely, then stand with me, and like we can fight off the loneliness as one. I just realized that this is Tono. I just realized I've never paid attention and seen before, but this is Tono. I guess Tono gets to appear in Summertime Record. That's cool. I didn't realize that before now. But it takes all the ideas that have been expressed through the Kagero project and puts it through the lens that the Mekakushi Dawn is going to be okay. That even though everything was awful, even though there was so much tragedy and so much to lose, even though that so much was lost time and time again, everyone's together and they'll make it out okay. Summertime Record is a very simple song. Really, it is. For everything that it is doing, for everything that it's trying to accomplish in terms of ending the Kagero project and being this perfect bow at the top, right? It also manages to do so very simply. And, it builds and builds and builds, and I think by the end, when the Mekakushi Dawn is standing all together, smiling together, it's not only one of the most powerful moments in the Kagero project, just in general. I think it really encapsulates everything that the journey was about in a big old punch to the face. So yeah, Summertime Record's fantastic. You didn't need me to tell you that. It's a good song. My 33rd favorite Vocaloid song. We're going. There's Mary. Next, as I'm sure everyone could tell by looking at the thumbnail for half a second, is Unknown Mother Goose by Wobuka. So, story time, a little bit. Wobuka was a incredibly big Vocaloid producer. They've produced such, like, untoutable, lifelong hits as Rolling Girl and Two-Faced Lovers and Unhappy Refrain. And Wobuka had not made a Vocaloid song for a long time. Unhappy Refrain was like his big departure from Vocaloid for a while, right? And this song, Unknown Mother Goose, was made for Miku's 10th anniversary in 2017. On Miku's 10th anniversary, a bunch of producers got together and they made tracks for Miku. And this was Wobuka's, was Unknown Mother Goose. And Unknown Mother Goose is an autobiographical song. It has the same sort of uniqueness to it that something like Odds and Ends does. And it tells how, it speaks from Wobuka's perspective and talks about how he was on this huge journey as a person, as a producer, and what started it all, what his Unknown Mother Goose was Hatsune Miku. The thing that fostered him and gave him a place to start, a place to grow, was Miku, was Vocaloid. And the very end of the piece, the song as it is sort of an existential crisis, where Wowaka is questioning like the journey he's been on and the places that his life have taken him, but comes back to this idea that Vocaloid was always there and will always be there for him. The final like coda of the song, the actual end piece, states how Wowaka will continue to go out on his life. He will continue to live, but as he keeps going, as he continues to be a music producer that has nothing to do with Vocaloid anymore, he'll keep humming that old song that he used to forgot, which is nebulously describing the fact that he will keep Vocaloid with him. And I think that of the various pieces of music that express that are on a meta level, not about various themes and elements of the human condition, but about Vocaloid in particular, this is one of the best, because it really takes you on this journey from the perspective of someone that was there, from someone that it mattered, saying that Vocaloid was important, that even though Wowaka went on to be a music producer who didn't need Vocaloid, that he would never deny that Vocaloid was incredibly important to him. And that Vocaloid will always be incredibly important to him. And this, of course, is his last Vocaloid song, but I mean, like, even assuming that Wowaka didn't pass away, unfortunately, tragically, this probably would have been his last piece of music as a Vocaloid producer. This is really him putting a stamp on, this was what I did with my career, and it will always be important to me, I will always love it, but I can let it go and continue to do my own thing now. I think Unknown Mother Goose is a fantastic song. Compositional marvel, too. I mean, Wowaka always had a unique sound that was very much more his own than anything else. But I think it really comes through with this, and all of the little motifs from various other works he's done that weave into the mesh of the music all come together to make this song really, really fantastic. I love Unknown Mother Goose. It's good. And next, the Kagero Project. The Jinzo Enemy is a song about about NA and Shintaro, and it's a good song, and I really like NA, and I really like Takane Enomoto is my favorite character in the Kagero Project, and the Kagero Project story music time. Yes, the Kagero Project is good. I like the Kagero Project. You like the Kagero Project. We all like the Kagero Project. Jinzo Enemy is a really good song. I love it. I love it. It's good. Yep. There we go. Bye. Yeah, go listen to my top 10 Kagero Project songs video if you want to know why I love Jinzo Enemy. It's good. It's good. It shows Route XX. It's really tragic. Shows the beauty of two people who like hated each other, realizing that they were more similar than they are different. It has so many wonderful themes in it that I've seen so many times. But you know this song. I don't need to tell you about Jinzo Enemy. Now, moving past Jinzo Enemy is my 30th favorite Vocaloid song, and that is Dear. Dear by Jukyu's Sound Factory. I'm not exactly sure how their name is supposed to be pronounced. Dear's really good. Yeah, I am speedrunning the Kagero Project songs. Dear is really fascinating now. Dear's an older song. I think it came out in like 09, maybe even 08. I think it might be an 08 piece. But Dear I would categorize as it falls into the category of like quintessential Vocaloid song. And by that I mean I think Dear is really when people describe what made Vocaloid as like a sound and as a genre, Dear really is all of that at once. What is Dear? Dear is a very, very good sounding pop song. I think it sounds beautiful. It's beautiful. It sounds upbeat. If you just listen to it, I mean, look at this PV. If you look at this PV and like just hear the music, you're like, wow, that is a good song. I am very energized and very happy. However, Dear is singing about coping with the passing of a loved one. And this is what I think Vocaloid was all about, baby. I think the thing people always said about Vocaloid, right, was this idea, you'd see this phrase thrown quite around a lot. it's this idea that it was a song that sounded great, but then you read the lyrics and then you cry. And Dear is all about that. It's a very powerful, upbeat piece of pop music, very striking. I think the chorus in particular is really moving, simply from a compositional standpoint. But then what are the lyrics of the chorus? It's, I love you, you who is no longer here. I'm gonna keep reaching for you. I'm gonna keep, hearing your voice. Like, it is about Miku singing about loss and about this painful emptiness in her heart, but conveyed through this really almost uplifting piece of composition. And this dichotomy, I think, really works well. It does a very good job at highlighting both the pain of losing something and the joy of recalling the memories. Because you would not feel pain, you would not be upset, you would not feel loss if you didn't love to begin with, right? Grief is an accessory to love. You cannot be sad something is gone if you didn't care that it was there to begin with. And Dear, I think, walks a very beautifully thin line of holding both that pain and that joy right next to each other. And I think to that end, it's just a gorgeous song. One of my favorites, absolutely. 19 Sound Factory is really good, and Dear is a really good piece of music. Next is a much more sad piece of music than Dear is. Well, depends on how you categorize being sad, I guess. But following Dear, we have our next song, which is Living with Depression. Now, I think the title of this piece kind of says it all, really. If you didn't know what the song was about, well, it's about living with depression. Living with Depression is a really interesting piece of music. Not merely because of its subject matter, but how it conveys its subject matter. So, what is the song about? The song is about living with depression. But the much more interesting thing is its composition, its tone, and its ultimate conclusion, right? So, compositionally, this song uses vibe and marimba. It uses mallet instruments. It has a drop. This song that is about living with depression has a drop that uses mallet percussion, which is just not something that many other pieces of music do at all in anything. In fact, I struggle to think of quite literally anything else that uses mallet percussion in the drop of a song than this. But it's quite great. And there is a dichotomy present in this song as well, where a lot of the song is rather upbeat, and there's only very few portions that sound on a superficial level like they're heavy, it's really touching on the subject matter that you would expect from a song called Living with Depression. But ain't that what it's like to live with depression, ain't it? It is not a great encapsulation of this of the agony it's trying to convey. This dichotomy, this hypocritical feeling that you can't control, of at once knowing that you're in this happy scenario, but being unable to escape the negativity therein. I think the way it does that, it crafts that, is quite effective. Furthermore, is the ultimate point of the song, right? It has this wonderful composition. It balances this sort of attempt to be uplifting with the real context of the lyrics being heavy. But what is the ultimate point of the song? What does it build to at the end? It builds to, again, much like Lently, this profession that what is really important in one's life is not the pain they take with them. It is not the agony. It is not even the joy. It is the hope and the love they find in other people. You get to the end of the song, and it builds up to this whole beautiful moment where, actually, it's the moment that is quite literally on screen right now, where the speaker realizes for everything, the most important thing to them is that they were not alone. That they had this opportunity to confide in someone else. And through realizing that even if you're going to hurt, you can still open your heart to another person. You can still let someone in, and you can still, and together, you can both bear that weight. That you can both try to not collapse under the ever worsening tide, ever harshening tide of reality. That being able to do that makes life worth living. And that takeaway is beautiful. Because you are here. I'm going to let it play out because this is the part of the song I was talking about. You are here, and I am so happy. Right now, I'm so happy. The reason there isn't really one. I know that's what the next line is. There really isn't one. I'm just simply happy. You see, I haven't had quite enough of being alive. And if that ain't beautiful, if that ain't something that touches you in the midst of depression and joy, and if that isn't a fantastic expression of this very nuanced feeling, then I don't know what is. Living with Depression is a great song, and other things by the composer, Yanaga Miyuki. Other things by Yanaga Miyuki are pretty good too. They have one that's called Melting Pot of Emotion that I think is quite good, but it's great. It's really good. Yes, I did have 50 tabs open. That is exactly what I did to make this happen. The next song is Good Morning My Diva by Kazuma Toda. Now, this song is also really good, and I mean, it's really good for the same reason that Lily of the Endless Night is good. Really, the Lily trilogy of songs, I all adore, and the really only thing that changes them, because they're all kind of, their appeal is all the same, is simply the differing strengths of the composition. I think that Good Morning My Diva is just a more beautiful song than Lily of the Endless Night. And what is Good Morning My Diva? It is the finale of the Lily trilogy by Kazuma Toda that talks about Fukuse having had an operation to try and save his life, and the operation succeeds. He does not die. However, he forgets his memory, and therefore forgets about Lily, the person he loves most. And it is just it is this beautiful, beautiful ballad that Kazuma Toda is always able to do. This time including Iya. It's a duet. But what is the thing that makes it special is, I have discussed this before. However, I will highlight it again. The most beautiful thing about this song is the ending. So remember that leitmotif from all the way at the beginning of the song, at number 50, Lily of the Endless Night. Well, let me turn this down a little bit. The leitmotif comes back at this point. And that conversation that Fukuse and Iya have is, of course, reflective of the conversations that they had prior in the other songs. It's reflective of the emotions that they have, and it is more than anything a profession that they still love each other, that even if Fukuse's memory has been damaged, even if that bond between them is broken, there's something between the speakers that will never go away. And if that ain't love, I don't know what love is, baby. Kazuma Toda is a gifted composer, a absolute joy, and it's very upsetting that they have not made a song in 4 months, because I love them. Good Morning My Diva is really good. That's all I gotta say. The next song, boy, is another song that falls into the category of being a lot like Dear. So I described Dear as being quintessential. I said it is a quintessential Vocaloid song. Why did I say that? I said it was quintessential because of the tone balancing it does. Where Dear is a very lively pop song that is actually about coping with the loss of someone. Well, guess what Calc is? Calc is a very lively pop rock song that is about, well, it's interesting. You can interpret Calc multiple ways. I think the two most common are that it's about breaking up with someone and or someone dying. It's not explicitly clear, simply that a connection has been severed. And it, again, much like Dear, balances the tones of being this really, really infectious pop rock song, while also being about this expression of sorrow, this expression of grief. And I think Calc in particular, what puts it slightly above Deer, one, I just like its composition more, and two, I think it has a way with expressing its feelings, and has a poeticism to what it's able to say that is quite fantastic. That is a cut above Deer, right? You get to the final bits, the final refrain and chorus of Calc, and the final chorus is just it's at once this very wholehearted expression of grief and love, where they say, your ears, your eyes, everything that you had felt, everything that you experienced, perhaps if I could understand, if I was able to see it, if I had all those similar sensations, that I could have understood you. And maybe, if that were the case, maybe if I really knew you, who always seemed to evade me, then I could have actually loved you the way that I always wanted. And I think that profession, with the way the music builds, it just creates this perfect climax that is incredibly sorrowful. The normal version of the song is, like I said, it's a pop rock song. There's a very well-known and well-distributed version that is a ballad as well. Very good in different ways. I think the normal pop rock song is slightly better, but Calc is a wonderful piece of music. I think that it conveys its message quite well. And furthermore, as a just piece of like cultural anthropology, I think it is very well encapsulating of what made Vocaloid great and what continues to make Vocaloid great. Yeah, not much to say. It's a very simple piece of music, but a very effective one. Calc is good. Next is a much more unpopular song that I would be surprised if anyone knew. This is a song called Aurelia by Teisho Tokupi. And Aurelia is a part of a duology of songs called Aurelia with an R and Aurelia with an L that are by Teisho Tokupi. And this song it's very interesting. It tells the story of these two girls who are in love, and anyone who knows me knows I am a sucker for girls' love stories. But it tells this it just shows this sort of tragic relationship between these two girls, where the short-haired girl and the long-haired girl are in love. They are in a relationship, but the short-haired girl is battling some sort of depressive state. The short-haired girl has these problems that she wrestles with that she can't get away from, and the long-haired girl is constantly attempting to help her, but is never quite able to pull her out of her grief. And, it's not high stakes. It's not like by the end of the song, like someone dies or anything. But I think it really speaks to a different kind of pain, because there's lots of different, throughout the list so far, we've seen many expressions of grief. We've seen many different kinds of feelings of loss and depressed states. But Aurelia has a very specific kind of tragedy where the girls are in love. They do love each other. They do care for each other. But even then, being with someone that you care about very wholeheartedly, the short-haired girl can't shake that feeling of loneliness. She can't get away from how much it hurts her all the time to just be alive. And the long-haired girl also has a tragedy of being closer than anyone to this person, but still being unable to help them, still being unable to get them away from all of their sorrow. And I think that is a very interesting proposition. I think it's a very interesting setup, and moreover, the Teisho Tokupi's composition is beautiful. This is a pop rock song, and I think that its composition is just off the charts. Fantastic. The way that Teisho Tokupi tunes Gumi is gorgeous, and the song I think is just incredibly emotional. It does a few different things where it shares melodies and ideas with its sister song, and all of that creates this duology that I think is incredibly emotional and very tragic. It speaks upon, people will feel pain because they're alone, but what happens when you're not alone, but you still hurt? What happens when, even though you have people that are trying their best for you, you can't do anything about the demons in your heart? And I would like to highlight a certain moment that is coming up here. Yes, it was right around the corner. The final chorus comes in to a cold open to this line with this image. And it shows the two characters like when they were happy together. And that is, I think, the real true tragedy is that it cuts to the character, this girl sinking. And the tragedy is that the love they felt was not invalid. They really were happy together. All of that was true. But it's also true that one person can't change everything. That there's more layers to people than just what is superficially, seemingly so. It's a real tragedy to Aurelia, and what makes it one of my favorite songs. I think it's gorgeous on pretty much every level, and fully recommend you listen to this song. Moving on to something that is slightly less depressing than Aurelia is Swear an Oath on the Bridge, my first Mothy song. And my only Mothy song? No, not my only Mothy song. There will be another Mothy song. But Swear an Oath on that Bridge is a less popular song in the Avellius Chronicles, for sure. What is Swear an Oath on that Bridge? Swear an Oath on that Bridge tells the story of Eluka during the brief time in which she served the Kingdom of Lusitania as one of its 3 knights, alongside Leon, and I can't remember, Lionheart, rather, and I can't remember the last girl's name. But it tells the story of how Eluka, made friends in this trio, and just simply shows their bond. It shows, various vignettes of their day and their life, and shows how they came to trust one another. And the song In a Bubble is not anything too crazy, right? It's a nice song. It speaks about friendship, but that's not great. That's not out of this world. What makes it special is how it ties into the rest of the Avellius Chronicles. As much as I think the Avellius Chronicles is a horrible mess, it definitely has good things about it, and this is one of them. You have to understand that Eluka, the main character, the girl represented by Luca here, you have to understand that she had nothing. You have to understand that Eluka Clockworker had no friends. She hated everything. She was bored. She's immortal. She did not have any connection for many years up until this point, where she meets Lionheart and this other girl, and King Arth, and Lady Marie. And in the Kingdom of Lusitania, she opens herself up and says, maybe I can interact with these people. Maybe I can, form this bond. Maybe I can be something more than what I am. And you get to see how this person who rejected the world, because the world rejected her, finds happiness in this group of friends. And that already would have been great. But the greater tragedy to it all is knowing that after the events of this song, after the events of Swear an Oath on that Bridge, what happens to Eluka? But everything disintegrates. She completely loses all of her connections. King Arth and Queen Marie die, and the rest of her friends in the Trinity also die through various things that happen during the Lusitania Chronicles. And by the end of the day, Eluka is right back to square one again. She opens her heart after years and years of solitude and grows to appreciate these people, only to lose them all one by one. It's an incredibly tragic story when you hear through Swear an Oath on that Bridge just how happy Eluka was to be alive. It's a wonderful piece of tragedy that does not devalue the fact that Eluka opened herself up. The happiness that she felt, the happiness that is expressed in this song, is real. It's genuine. Eluka cared. She very much loved her friends. But it's because she loved them so much that there's a real pain to knowing that they have to go away. There's a real pain to knowing that they're going to be lost. It's unfortunate, but it's beautiful. Mothy is really good at character interactions. He's really good at writing people. The plot, maybe not so much, but the characters, I could never fault Mothy for being a very strong character writer. And in these 3, in the Lusitania Trinity, you really feel that. You feel that bond. And I think truly understanding connection is a rare thing. It's a rare thing to get right, especially in music. And that's what makes Swear North and the Bridge such a eternally fantastic piece of composition. We will have another Mothy song in the future. But before we get more Mothy, we get more Nikki. This next song is Close to You. Close to You is my 24th favorite Vocaloid song. We are only halfway done. But Close to You is great. Close to You has everything good about being Nikki. It is a piece of music that has an incredible emotional core conveyed through a very strong rock ballad with lots of belting. And what's Close to You about? Well, Close to You is about death, as many things are. Close to You is about accepting tragedy, right? It is about learning to come to... it is from the perspective of the party of someone who has to keep living, coming to accept the inevitable loss of someone who is going to die. It is, in this way, sort of the inverse of Error, right? Error is about someone dying, trying to rationalize the fact that they are going to be lost to the world forever, and they will never be able to rejoin the things that they love. Whereas Close to You is about someone who has to keep living, knowing that they are going to lose that which they hold most dear. And Nikki just... it's all in the composition. Nikki has a pen that is just unlike anyone else when he's writing the music. It makes the lines carry so much more weight. All I need is to be close to you. But of course, what makes it special is not merely that it's a expression of loss, but moreover that it carries it into this sweet conclusion, where in the first chorus you start with the line that everything is finite, that the sparkle that I see is the finite time that we have together. The speaker is focused on the fact that there's only so much time left you can be with someone that you care about. And how that's scary and how that's terrifying. But by the end of the song, that finite time is now something wonderful. It's a demonstration of how much joy you still have to create. The sparkle in your eyes is the time that is that finite time. But in that finite time, we can share it together, and our hearts can connect. And it is just a very pure expression of love, and there's obviously love songs, right? Like if you go out and listen to find any pop song, you can find plenty of love songs. But I think there is a difference between a love song and a song about love, where Close to You is not a love song in the traditional sense, but it is an expression of love. It is an expression of what it feels like to truly care about someone. You get that full emotional weight placed on your shoulders as you listen to this piece. And Nikki is on a whole different level when it comes to conveying such strong emotions. Any emotion that is conveyed through power and through this bursting, need to act and to speak. Nikki can put that into music unlike anyone else. And that's Nikki's strength. That's what makes Nikki so good. That's what makes Close to You such a banger. I don't know what this next song is from the thumbnail, but I'll figure it out in a second. Ah, yes. This next song is Bokura no Let It Be by Harry P, aka Our Let It Be, aka a fantastic piece of music. Bokura no Let It Be is a very simple song. Really simple song. What is Bokura no Let It Be? It is a song about someone. It is about two people, and one of them dies. And I'm sure as anyone could observe, this has been a repeated trend. But also, as I hope you could observe, is that as much as many songs that I've, showcased here are about grief. They are about a relationship gone poor, a relationship cut off, and therefore about loss. They are exploring it in different ways, and that's what makes it all worthwhile, right? Bokura no Let It Be is mostly a love song, actually. It is only truly at the end that it reveals that it shows its hand, that what it has truly been about is not just an expression of love, but a remembrance of love at the end of someone's life, when all they have left is their memories, because the other party is gone. And it does two things that I really think are good. It has had two little parts that I think push it over the edge for me to make it something that I adore so much. It talks about like childhood and heroism, about like an innocent desire to do good, which are topics, sort of different themes and motifs that I quite adore. And it's also realizing that while it's easy enough for a child to say that they want to be a hero, in truth, when you grow and you realize what it actually is like to face hardship, you realize how difficult it is to accomplish those tasks. And that's the tragedy, right? You get to see this unfolding relationship between these two people that happens as they grow close, as they bond, but then by the end it's cut short. And this song does not tell you why the girl died. You know, it could be an accident, it could be any number of things, it doesn't really matter. But I think the loneliness at the end and the way it conveys the love between the two, and therefore the way it conveys the loneliness when they're gone, is really wonderful. I think it really comes back to the composition. It's a very mellow song for most of it, but in that sort of relaxed nature, it feels very comfortable. The relationship and the bond that you see feels very simple and sincere and sweet, until it's gone, which of course hurts a lot. Yeah, Boku no Let It Be is really good. I'll skip just to show the sad image. Yeah, the iconic sad thing is when they reveal that everything is dead, is you get to see the girl encased in flowers because she is no longer with us. And that's very unfortunate. It's a heavy song for sure, but I like it quite a lot. Boku no Let It Be. Moving on is a very different song, and a song I talked about all the way back when I talked about Letter Song, which I guess wasn't that long ago. But number 22 is Seventina by Harumaki Gohan, my favorite Harumaki Gohan song. Seventina is kind of just Letter Song again, but I think it's doing it better. It is about all the same things. Seventina is a song about the jaded malaise of being an adult, and it's about the innocence of childhood, and it's about how the beauty of one's youth can empower them into the future, and how all of the joys, all of the struggles that characterize someone when they were young, all of that strength, all of the things that you overcame can still push you forward and be your strength into the future. It's exactly what Letter Song is about. They pretty much have the same topic. It is about an older person discovering their old memories of when they were younger, and that being something special to them. I think this is my favorite Harumaki Gohan song. As I said, it's strong for its themes. It's strong for its composition. I think Seventina sounds beautiful. It looks beautiful. It sounds beautiful. And I think ultimately the way it uses 17, the phrase 17 and the phrase Seventina as this metaphor, and how that evolves all throughout the song until you get to the end where as the two figures face each other, the girl and the girl of her childhood, and you get the phrase 17 is endless across the screen. That's really the apex, right? What does that phrase mean? What does it mean for 17 to be endless? It does not literally mean being 17, nor is there anything special about specifically the age 17, right? 17 is endless means that the ambitions and the life you had about you as a child will never really go away. You can always reclaim that life that gave you beauty, in this case when the spear was 17. They're saying that the things that I believed in, the things that I thought were so beautiful, they are here to stay. That I can always come back and find that joy in my heart and keep living. Yeah, it's just a fantastic piece of music that comments on so many of the similar themes to various songs that we talked about, and does it so well. I will say, I did not put there were no fireflies on this list, because it came out like 2 months ago, and I just want to think about it more. But I really like There Were No Fireflies, to deviate completely from 17 a little bit. No, not latest anymore, the second to latest Harumaki Gohan song. I'm really in love with that song. That song may well, in the future, join my top 50 at some point. It's a good piece of music. But 17 is perfect. I think everything from its like visual design, its metaphors are great. I made a video about it a long time ago when it came out. It was one of my best songs of that year. Or actually, it was my favorite song of that year. And to this day, remains one of my absolute favorite songs ever. 17 is beautiful. It's a masterpiece. Harumaki Gohan's pretty good too. Next is an older piece of music, and one that I would be, again, a little bit more surprised if people knew, because this one's not nearly as popular. This is a song called Dolls by Rosencruz P. And Dolls is a song by that uses Rin. It's an old piece of music, as you can tell from the art and the aspect ratio, that tells the story of a doll who was created by a doll maker. And the ever-growing relationship that forms between them. If I were to compare Dolls to something, it would most similarly be Kokoro. I think that the subject matter and the ideas expressed through this piece of music are very similar to Kokoro's in terms of its presentation, in terms of its story, in terms of many things. But what pushes Dolls over the edge for me is its composition. I think this song is, like, the actual music of this song is breathtakingly gorgeous. Dolls is a great music. Is a great great piece of music. It shows the slow actualization of this doll that looks like Rin into a really thinking, feeling person. It builds in emotionality as they feel more and more for their master that slowly leaves them. Again, very similarly to Kokoro. And it all culminates in, I'll just skip to the climax. It all culminates in Rin running out and taking to the street to try and reunite with their master, right? But as they go, they trip and they injure themselves. They're just a doll, and the doll is breaking, and it's emotional and it's sad and it hurts. But what does the song build to? What does it build to? And it's so cheesy. It's such a cheesy story idea, but it always works. I always love it. Is as she falls apart, as this doll disintegrates, she hears her master calling to her. Her master who is long gone. And as she falls, she hears her master saying, you've done enough. Come be happy. And the false body fades away. And this person who is self-actualized into feeling realizes the love that they always had in them. And at the end of her life, after she passes, she is able to simply be happy by the side of the person that she loves. And it's gorgeous. It's just it is incredibly emotional. And I think that, again, what the real marvel is the composition. The way that the song is crafted in its chorus really, really drains on the soul. The art is also beautiful in this PV. Dolls is a very good piece of music, and it's very underrated because as an old song that a lot of people have forgotten about. Next song does not have a PV because Neru, I don't know, he didn't get a PV for this one. So this art is by Shiru, of course. This is a Neru song, and is this my favorite Neru song? I don't remember. Is this? Yes? No? No. This is not my favorite Neru song, but this is close to my favorite Neru song. This song is My Name is Love Song. My Name is Love Song is not nearly as popular as a lot of Neru's other music because it doesn't have a PV. And all music that does not have PVs tends to not get as popular because people like to watch music videos. And that's fair enough. I don't blame them. But My Name is Love Song is really good. It came out after World Domination, but before Neru got into his modern sound of synthwave stuff. And unlike a lot of Neru's music, what makes My Name is Love Song special is that it's positive. Like, it's really positive for as much as, I mean, it documents a lot of grief. It, by all means, sounds and is a Neru song. It talks about society and the problems, and I'm unhappy, and all the things that someone won't expect from listening to Neru. But it takes it from a different angle. With the title, My Name is Love Song, it ultimately concludes that, like, for all the grief in the world, for as much as society sucks, we always have to remember love. We always have to remember that, yes, we live in, like, a broken system that is unfair, and people get exploited, and everything sucks, and I suck, and you suck. But we can deal with the world sucking better by coming together. And I really think that, as should be obvious based on how I've described other things here, is that I think unity is really powerful, right? I think that darkness best exists to accentuate the light. It's a contrast that makes both better, right? My Name is Love Song has a lot of the classic Neru angst, right? But unlike a lot of Neru's angst that is just there because Neru is a sad boy, it builds to something. It builds to, through everything, like, through all of the awful things about the world, you know, that Neru would sing about in something like Shosei Gekijo or something, right? At the end of all of that, we should keep singing love songs. At the end of all of that, what is important to me? What am I? I am a love song. I am going to keep resounding that it's okay, that we'll keep dealing with everything that sucks about the world because we'll do it together. Because my name is Love Song. It's great. It's a very underrated piece of music. I thoroughly recommend it to everyone. And we'll keep talking about Neru in the future. But not right now, because now we're talking about Hito Shizuku-P. And this is the first time Hito Shizuku-P appeared on this list, actually. But really high. This is number 19. My 19th favorite song is Endless Wedge. Endless Wedge is the conclusion to a trilogy of music by Hito Shizuku-P. A trilogy of music that starts with Soundless Voice, follows with Proof of Life, and then Endless Wedge. And this series of music talks about a relationship between two people, portrayed by Rin and Len, and it tells the story of Rin slowly dying, and just the emotions that come from both parties as they have to deal with that. Endless Wedge, though, does not take place during the death, as Soundless Voice and Proof of Life do. Endless Wedge takes place after the fact, and this is what makes it really special, is that Endless Wedge, it tells the story of Len coping with his feelings about having lost Rin, and what that means to him. And how he keeps living, and he will always keep living. But in his heart, there will always be an endless wedge. There will be something tearing into his heart forever that he will never be able to get rid of, because the pain of having lost the person that he loves most will always stay with him. Which is interesting. It's interesting to look at the idea of grief and loss, not from the perspective of it happening in the moment, but having to keep living with that, having to know that the person you love will never come back. But it's not just that, because if it was just that, that's not interesting. Very rarely, as I've said, is pure positivity or pure negativity interesting. You really have to either do that extraordinarily well, or you need to say something else. And Endless Wedge does the latter. It acknowledges that there will always be that endless wedge in your heart, that you will never truly forget the pain of losing someone that you love. But you will also never, or you should never forget the happiness. It is in Proof of Life, the song that is from Rin's perspective, she sings a line that is important, where she says that even at the end of her life, she does not want to sing a sad song. That what she wants to be remembered by is not sadness. It's not like the anguish. It's what it takes to keep living. It's about hope. And in the final refrain of Endless Wedge, Len just repeats to himself her words. He just repeats that I don't want to sing a sad song. I don't want to sing a sad song. I don't want to think back to the person that I loved more than anything and just feel pain. I want to think back to them and have this joy and be able to remember the happy times. That's what's most important. And this version, I'm actually going to pull this up because I think it's worth pointing out. This is the version of the song that is uploaded to Hitachizukupi's channel currently, but they had an older version of the song, which is this one, that I also want to point out because not only is it good, it also uses leitmotifs, and we all know how much I like leitmotifs. So, in the final chorus of the song, the piano plays the melodies of both Soundless Voice and Proof of Life under Len singing the choral line of Endless Wedge, which is the music melodically conveying that for all of the pain, for all of the suffering, Len has internalized it all. He has internalized the happy times and the sad times, and is now looking back on the person that he loved in their totality for what they truly are. And he will keep living with both of those pieces, with both the Endless Wedge and the happiness together. And it's the way it does that through the use of music is really good. So if you've heard Proof of Life and Soundless Voice before, just kind of listen for them in this final chorus as I play it for a second. Yeah, so again, it wouldn't make sense if you didn't know the songs, but yes, the melodies of Soundless Voice and Proof of Life are there in that piano track, and the blending of them together is something really beautiful that, in its own right, even without the words that Len is saying, conveys the feeling of that loss. Endless Wedge is a great song, and people definitely don't like it. Oh my god. I'll talk about this disclaimer here in a second. But yes, it's a good song. Ignore Flat Earth. I'll talk about why that's there in a second. This song, I can't believe it says that. The next song, let me turn the music back on. The next song is called Playing Theory by Nikki. And yeah, Nikki, as I've discussed, is a great composer. And Playing Theory is not about death and gloom like Error is, or Close to You. Playing Theory is just about love. Playing Theory is a love song. It is a song that is conveying just the simple, unabashed joy of loving another human being. There's no strings attached, nothing else, no tragedy to the romance. It's just beautiful. But the way, of course, because this is a Nikki song, the way that Nikki conveys this love is not as a delicate or sweet thing. It is an all-encompassing joy. It is I'm going to run to the top of the hills and scream with all of my might that I am in love. That's the kind of feeling that Nikki is portraying here. It's very simple in that. I think that it's, but I think in that simplicity is its beauty. I think that this song is so high in the list because it's a compositional marvel that is at once just screaming about how beautiful it is to be in love, how beautiful the world is when you love someone else. And that's great. It's very good. But putting that aside for a second, you may notice that the flat earth here, the flat earth disclaimer is here. And that's because if I go to the subtitles, which aren't, wow, I don't even know. Okay, I know why the flat earth disclaimer is here. I can't believe, I don't even know how YouTube knows this, but the final chorus of the song says, and I don't know why. I don't think Nikki is a flat earther. Let me start there. But the final chorus of the song does say, on the other side of the flat earth, the sun is surely rising. That is something that it says. That is the lyrics of the song. I don't know what the metaphor is supposed to be. I don't know why Nikki chose that imagery, but that is why there's a flat Earth disclaimer on this Nikki song. But ignore that. Ignore that. Ignore that. This is a good song. I wasn't expecting the flat Earth Wikipedia page to show up on this song, but ignoring the flat Earth, Plain Theory is a very good love song. I thoroughly recommend it. Flat Earth and all. Yes. Next song has no flat Earth in it, and instead just has sad school children. Welcome, everyone, to my second favorite Nedu song. I'm going to be brief with this one as well, much like I was with the Kagura Project songs, just because I had a video where I talked about re-education in length. I think re-education is kind of at its core almost the same song as World Domination Now 2. They're definitely about the same sort of things. They're both from the World Domination album, and they're just talking about school. They're talking about school and society and the problems they're in. But I think what separates World Domination to How To and Re-Education is that Re-Education, I think, is more focused. I think it's more talking. It's more speaking to the tragedy of the situation. It's more speaking to how like the system is rigged to fail. And how people are, the people that are produced by the Japanese schooling system are so often lacking something. And I think part of the way it does that is by having the two speakers, portrayed by Rin and Len, and also the girl from Abstract Nonsense be there to create this really encompassing idea that the problems that re-education is discussing are full-bodied and affecting everything. I also just prefer its composition. So those two things in tandem. Other than that, it's more Nedu, you know? It's a Shidu produced PV with Nedu's rock composition talking about school. It is about as Nedu could possibly be, because this is all Nedu does with his life. Or did. Nedu does more things now. But I think it has great imagery. This imagery in particular was great. I love the school pencils turning into knives all the time. I love the This imagery is really nice, where the skyscrapers in the background are made to appear exactly as stacks of paper. It really just does a lot to sell this idea that school is at once all you have, and while also not providing you with the things that you need. It's a very powerful cry for help, honestly. I talked about it a lot. If you want to hear more, go listen to my Wozwald video where I give a lot more examples, specific examples of this. But Re-Education is a very powerful duet. It's probably my favorite Kagami duet, to be honest, strictly compositionally speaking. That's actually not true. It's my favorite Kagami rock ballad, compositionally speaking, but it's a keeper. It's definitely one of Nedu's classics, and I very much wish he would make more music like this. Another quickie will be the next one. The next song is the last of the Kasumura Toto trilogy, and this is Until Your Night Dawns. And I will say very little about this because I already talked about the other two at length. It is exactly everything as good as the other two. The only difference is that this song is mostly from Ia's point of view instead of Fukase's, and I think it is a little more pretty. But it is just another piece of music that is beautifully touching upon loss with Kasumura Toto's breathtaking composition. Yeah, if you like Lily of the Endless Night and Good Morning My Diva, you will like Until Your Night Dawns. It is everything that is good about those two, but more of it. Yup, that's it. Yeah, this is a good song. Kasumura Toto is great, but I'm moving on. Now we have at number, what number is this? At number 15, we have my favorite Nedu song. So this is it. My favorite Nedu song was not World Domination Now 2. It is not The Lost One's Weeping. It is not Re-Education. It is Terror. It is not My Name Is Love song. It is Terror. Now, and why is Terror my favorite Nedu song? So what is Terror? Terror is kind of in a trilogy of songs. Food processor, I could say. Oh no. Terror is kind of the conclusion to a trilogy of songs that is Drowning in a Wave of Sadness, I Want to Be a Kind Person, and Terror. Drowning in a Wave of Sadness documents the feelings of the boy that is portrayed in this song, and I Want to Be a Kind Person portrays the feelings of the girl portrayed in the song, whose name is You. And Terror is the story of them together. And Terror is, much like My Name is Love Song, one of the very few, very positive Nikki songs. The text of the song is about you, the girl from I Want to Be a Kind Person, helping the guy whose name I don't remember from Drowning in a Wave of Sadness to be happy. The title is saying that, like, the strife and fate and hatred we feel in this world is like terrorism, is the metaphor. It is like an act of terrorism, and the only way we will make our lives better is by fighting back against it. And she encourages the boy to continue to try and live, to try and fight against the unfairness of the world, and that is your rebellion. That is how you will strike back. And it is just her speaking from having experienced so much grief herself, from having lost. The boy, in fact, having lost a connection to another girl in his past. These two very hurt people coming together. You know, Kerr, I'll say what I want. It's about these two very hurt people coming together and learning to prop each other up. And I think the imagery is great. I think the song is great. I think it's very powerful. The composition is beautiful. I think the finale of the song is definitely my favorite that Nedu has produced musically, in addition to being wonderful. I think that when Nedu is actually writing about positivity, and he's creating an arc for his characters to go through, it is quite strong. He just doesn't do that a lot. Most of his music is critique, and not. It's critique and not conclusion. But this song is a conclusion. It is looking at these two characters who struggled plenty and saying, "Be happy together." It is saying, "Look, you can. There is still hope. There is still things you can accomplish so long as you keep trying." And ain't that a great message? Ain't that a great message told beautifully through this series of music? It's great. Nedu is a good guy, and I miss him. I miss Nedu more and more every day. The next song does not have a PV. The next song is Wooden Girl 1000 Year Viking Lead, and I've also talked about this song a lot in a video I made. But Wooden Girl 1000 Year Viking Lead is my favorite Mothi song. It is my 14th favorite song, period. And it is a song from the Avelli's Chronicles. So what is Wooden Year 1000 Year Viking Lead? Well, I'll save you the story of explaining the entire story of the Lucifenia arc, but it takes, the song is sung from the perspective of a girl named Michaela, documenting the events of her life during a certain epoch of her life, I think a period of a couple years, where she grows to meet a few different people. She grows to fall in love with a girl named Clarith, and she very unfortunately ends up losing everything. But I've talked about various things throughout this collection, right? I've talked about professions of love. How close to you is a profession of love. How Plain Theory is a profession of love. How various songs exist to convey what it really means to care for another person. Well, I think this song kind of takes the cake. I think it's hard to beat Wooden Girl 1000 Year Viking Lead in conveying emotion and in conveying the emotion of closeness. And that's because the end of the song does a wonderful little trick where it uses the final chorus of the song is not the chorus of Wooden Girl Year 1000 Year Viking Lead. It is the chorus of a different song called Daughter of White. And that is because Daughter of White is the song that is not about Michaela, but is about her girlfriend Clarith. And by using the chorus of her girlfriend's song as the final chorus of her own song, she is, and changing the meaning to be positive, Michaela is expressing how much she loves Clarith. She is expressing that Clarith is that important to her, that the music that is about her, she will weave into her own. As I said when I analyzed the song more thoroughly, it's that that alone, even without the lyrics, goes to show you how much she loves her. And the whole song just builds and builds and builds to this crescendo where, in the climax, it breaks down and Michaela abandons her own piece of her own music. She abandons everything in the world and looks solely at Clarith and says, "I love you, and I will take care of you with everything I have." And that's just gorgeous. It's just gorgeous, and it's of course tragic because you know that through the rest of the Rebellious Chronicles that it does not work out, unfortunately. But she tries, and I think that's really the magic of 1 Year 1,000 Year Viking Lead. It uses leitmotifs and like the evolution of a theme in a very similar way to a lot of good American musical theater. And it does that in the Vocaloid medium to extremely great effect to convey the feelings of the speaker better than most things can, period. So, 1 Year 1,000 Year Viking Lead is a masterpiece. We're firmly in the category of every song I think is one of the greats. Like one of the all-time greats. Speaking of one of the all-time greats, I also don't know why this song is partially listened to. But next is Glow by Kino. This song is simple. This song is very simple, and therefore I don't think I have that much to say about it. But in its simplicity, it's great. Glow by Kino is a monologue or soliloquy. The song does not have narrative per se. It is merely a reflection of the speaker on their life and the feelings that have brought them thus far. It's a song about maturity, and it's a song about loss. It's a song about sincerity and all of the many things that come with growing up. As you grow up, you will gain many things, you will lose many things, and you will ultimately be left feeling helpless. You will be left in a state where you realize that just like when you were a child, there will always be things in this world that you are powerless to do anything against. That ultimately things you love and people you know will come and leave your life at the drop of a hat, and there's nothing much you can do about that. But try and live with it. But to try and internalize the memories and their pain and try and keep going. Glow is a marvel, first and foremost, of composition. I think that its lyricism is fine, it's definitely good, but it is a heavy song. The chords come and really weigh on you throughout the choruses as Miku drones about the pain in her heart. Kino is really good at painting an atmosphere. I think other songs that they made, like In the Rain and Dusk, are also really good at just creating this mood of heavy gloom that you don't get from a lot of other people, and definitely not as well. I think that ultimately Glow is probably my favorite expression of pure grief. It's divorced from narrative and is simply painting a feeling. And I think in terms of how one paints a feeling, in terms of the scale and the beauty with which one could possibly show weakness and hurt, Glow is about as good as anyone could possibly do that. It is kind of the perfect version of what's a song like this that we talked about? Of something like Plain Theory, but obviously in a different towards a different feeling. Glow is all about encapsulating an emotion, and in that it does it perfectly. And that's why it's great. I love Glow. It makes me very sad. I've cried many times listening to this song. Next is another song that I talked about quite a lot in my days, and this song has gone through quite an arc with me personally. The next song is I'm Glad You're Evil Too by Pinocchio P, which is my favorite Pinocchio P song. And there was a brief time where I was saying that this was my favorite song, period. That this had completely taken the throne of what I think is my favorite song. And I still like it a lot. Being number 12 is nothing to scoff at. Like, my 12th favorite song still means it's a masterpiece. However, I've grown off it a little bit. And that's not because it's bad. It's just because the story, the message, is not as very pertinent in my life as it was when for a period of time. But I think this song is kind of a masterpiece of progressive storytelling. The instrumental of this song and the instrumentation changes and evolves as the piece goes on. And I think the sound design that Pinocchio P uses here is A+. At the very start of the song, the instrumental is very bare. It's very bare and open as Miku kind of sings very tepidly. But instruments come in, harmonies come in. When you get to the second verse, it adds a driving pulse. As Miku talks about the beating of her heart, it adds this pulse that you hear in the music. And when you get to the second chorus, Miku talks about the fireworks, and there's a wire brush that they play on the snare that sounds like the fireworks. The sound design really comes in to support and prop up the things that Miku is saying. And of course, the song itself, when we look at the text, is just as powerful. The song is talking about simple things. It's talking about mundane activities, the mere act of being alive with another person, and how beautiful that is, how wonderful that is. It's talking about how it's the little things we do on a day-to-day basis that form our bonds. And that is a theme that will become very pertinent to some of the very, very, very top songs of this list. I think that is incredibly special. And, of course, the ultimate idea of the song, as professed by its name, I'm Glad You're Evil Too, is that there's nothing more special than having someone who understands you. The evil, I'm Glad You're Evil Too is not really a good translation of the song, of the title. Watawi hito te yokata does not really mean I'm Glad You're Evil Too. But Pinocchio P officially said the title is I'm Glad You're Evil Too, so that's what it is. But the idea is more that I'm glad you're a bad person too. And even then, the bad person is self-prescribed. The speaker is saying that they don't like themselves, that they themselves hate, well, maybe not hate, but they have these negative emotions towards themselves. And they're saying that I'm glad that you also are hurt. I'm glad that you also feel like you can't be okay with yourself. Because that alienation from the rest of the world resonates in me, and through that, we can form a bond with each other. I'm Glad You're Evil Too is a love song. It's a song about connection and closeness. And to that end, I think it is one of the best. I think that the way it builds, the way the song keeps growing stronger and stronger and stronger as the speaker becomes less and less afraid to embrace their feelings, right? Until ultimately, they are so overcome by their emotion that what was a tepid whisper at the beginning of the song is now a full belting scream at the end as they sing of how much that connection means to them. It is incredibly powerful. The song is a journey. It's a journey, and I think it takes you on this arc that is more dynamic than just about anything else. There's other songs that I like more for a plethora of other reasons, but in terms of having a narrative arc, I think that I'm Glad You're Able To is kind of unmatched. It's truly something special, and to this day, I would never say it's anything less than a masterpiece. Pinocchio P is great. Good job. Speaking of masterpieces, yeah, that's a good interpretation, Gray. Speaking of masterpieces, I firmly believe every single song from this point on is deserving of the term masterpiece. And yeah, the next one is another one of those that I feel like what more is there to say? And it's Odds and Ends. Odds and Ends by Rio. So, some background. Odds and Ends, Rio was a producer that made many of the most popular songs in Vocaloid. World Is Mine, Melt, Black Rock Shooter, stuff like that. Rio made those, and they are all incredibly important to the history of Vocaloid as a medium. Rio made the band Supercell and stopped making Vocaloid music for a while, but he came back to make the song Odds and Ends, which is a autobiographical piece, much like Unknown Mother Goose, that tells of his time, his story of what Vocaloid meant to him and how he went on to go be a musician. And this is not the last Vocaloid song he made. A couple years later, he would go on to make Sumi no Name, Name of the Sin, which is another very popular song, well liked. It's a good song. But Odds and Ends is kind of the Vocaloid song, right? For a lot of people, I think Odds and Ends really encapsulates everything about what it means to care about Vocaloid. Now, for me, I think there's another song that kind of does it a little better, that is going to be above this. But that doesn't mean Odds and Ends doesn't do a damn good job. It tells about the feelings that brought Ryo to Vocaloid to begin with. It tells about the feelings that made Ryo leave Vocaloid, and it tells about the feelings that brought Ryo back to Vocaloid when he was at his lowest. And the final chorus is so beautiful. It's so emotional, as when Ryo is at his lowest point and he has no faith in himself, the thing that gives him joy is Miku. It is Vocaloid. It is the music that he was able to create. It's such a resounding message about how powerful these compositions can be. How it doesn't matter, like, the skill or the scale. How just these people sharing their thoughts and actions through a robot who sings for them can mean so much to someone. Odds and Ends is definitely one of the most celebrated Vocaloid songs, and for good reason. I really think it's worthy of its praise. Very often do I think things that are like mainstream and popular in the mainstream are like deserving of their status. But Odds and Ends is one of the few examples where I can firmly say that yes, it is definitely a masterpiece. It is definitely worthy of everything that it is. And the arc it takes you through Ryo's whole life up to that point as a composer is special. It's very powerful that Ryo was willing to share that with us, and I think it was to great end because the song's fantastic. I don't believe anyone who says they have not listened to Odds and Ends before, but if you haven't, do it. You really owe it to yourself to do that if you like Vocaloid and if you care about it at all. Next is going to be a bit of a weird one. Next is another Nikki song, because I can't stop liking Nikki songs, and this is not a popular one. The song is Dependent. Dependent is a song that Nikki made relatively recently. I think it's one of his like 5 most recent songs. And it is, it's still a few years old, but I think it is still one of his 5 most recent songs. And it is another Nikki song. There's everything good about it that Nikki does, but its subject matter is a little different. It's not like Error and Close to You. It's much more like Jitterdoll in that it's a song about balancing like the good and evil of the entire world, right? It's saying that for as much awful as there is in the world, through various means, or as much as we come against each other and turn against each other as people, it is also true that the world is full of beauty. That for all of the horrible things, for all of the killing and the hating, we also love each other, and we also choose to join hands. It's rationalizing that these two things are not mutually exclusive, that there's tons of awful negativity in the world, and there's equal parts tons of beautiful and whole-consuming love. And it's this profession that love will always be more powerful than hatred, that one can never forget that people act out of love, and that a lot of the things that we perceive to be hatred are another person acting out of their love for something. That people are more unanimously driven than they appear to be, even if the paths that they end up on ultimately end up conflicting with each other. It's a very poetic song. However, I think more striking than that is its composition. I think the Dependent is with Nikki, it's equal parts with Nikki songs, right? When you examine them, Nikki has a certain sound, and I think a lot of your mileage with Nikki as a composer will rest on how much you are able to resonate with his powerful rock, his powerful rock ballads, and his weird techno dance songs that he makes sometimes with Wave. And I think Dependent is a marvel of composition. I think that it is only second to one other Nikki song in terms of how much I love it. And the way it screams about beauty and the way it forces it down your throat, I think is just such a lasting, powerful thing that makes Dependent wonderful. It's definitely a less popular song. Like all of Nikki's more recent pieces have unfortunately not been popular, except Palette, because that was made for Hololive. But I really think that anyone who likes Error, and everyone likes Error, really could do themselves a service of listening to the rest of Nikki's discography, because Error and General and Plus Reverse are all really good. But, there's other good songs too, such as Dependent. It is something that, amongst Nikki's many compositions, still manages to stick out, and that's great. I know you can kind of read the tabs now, if you were to look, but don't spoil yourselves, because spoiling yourself is stupid. So, I said, when I talked about odds and ends, that there was one song that I thought more was quintessentially about the Vocaloid experience than it, and it's this one. I think that sometime in the near future-ish, hopefully, maybe, I'll probably make a video about this piece of music. This piece, my 9th favorite song, is Hajimete no Oto, the first sound. Hajimete no Oto is a song by Malo, and it is a very early Vocaloid song. It came out in 2008, and it is sung from the perspective of Miku, as she just is saying, like, I exist to sing, and this is the first song I will sing. I cannot feel, I cannot, like, go out and live and experience things the way that you do, but I can sing. I want to sing. There are so many things moving around in the world, but I cannot ever understand them because I'm a program. However, while I can't understand them, while I will never be able to think and feel like a person, people can put their thoughts and feelings into me and turn them to music. There's a point in the song, quite early on, where it asks, do you remember, like, the first word you ever spoke? Surely not, because that's impossible. But while you will never remember the first word you spoke, I can always remember the first sound I've made. I can always remember the first song that was made. I can always take those feelings, the feelings people have given me, and hold on to them forever. Forever, for as long as time moves on, for as long as people continue to live, I will keep the feelings that people had at that time precious. And I will make sure that they're not forgotten, that they still remain somewhere. And why do I say that this is, like, the most quintessential Vocaloid song? Well, it's because Hajimete no Oto, I think now, is more, like, precious than it ever was when it came out. Not to say that it was ever a bad song, because I think it sounds beautiful and always has. But, when you look at Vocaloid now, right? When you look at how many producers are gone, that either don't make music anymore, or don't use Vocaloid anymore, or have passed away, I think that the message, the words that Malo gave Miku in this song resound more than they ever did in the past, right? It's more powerful and potent that those feelings are crystallized, and that the thoughts and ideas that the producers wanted to convey are still here and will always still be here now than it was then. Because now you can feel it. Now you live in a world where Nikki makes maybe one song every 4 years or something like that, You live in a world where Poa Poa P is gone. And in that world, you realize that, what do you have to hold on to? What is the most real thing you can take away from these people and these producers from this time in your life when you think back to when you discovered songs? It's the songs themselves. It's the fact that the music is still there and always was there. That the music that even after like you will never, even though you will never hear a new Woboka song ever again, or a new Sam Free song, like Mega Mega Fire Endless Night still exists, and will always exist just as it was the day that Sam Free decided that it was perfect, and he was going to put it out. And everything that he thought when he released that track still exists, and always will. That's what Hajimete no Ota was about. It's about the permanence of feeling. Because even as time marches on, memories and feelings remain. And that's really special. It's really powerful, and it's really powerful in a way that is specifically about Vocaloid. As Vocaloid dwindles, as there's less and less Vocaloid music, as the themes and ideas, as the medics, the literal memes of what once was, drift away with the tide, you only have your memory to go back on. But you can put form to those memories through listening to the songs that people cared about and that people put part of themselves into. And that's what's so good about Hajimete no Ota. It's definitely a strong piece of music. Definitely one that I think affects me quite a lot. I think about it all the time. Speaking of affecting me a lot, next is Proof of Life. Proof of Life is one of the other songs that I mentioned back with Endless Wedge, that is composed by Hitoshi Sakupi, and is the song from Rin's perspective about her dying and her coping with her death. And contrary to Error, which was a very violent song about the rage against the dying of the light, the error within oneself and rationalizing that your time on this earth is finite, and that you will not get to accomplish everything that you want, and that the things that you hold dear are going to be gone. Proof of Life is a duality between Rin's somber acceptance and Len's rabid unwillingness to agree. Rin herself is dying, but she is content. She is much more concerned, not with herself, but with how Len will keep living without her. There's a peace that comes from Rin and her lines as she says that she's okay. The final words of the song are simply arigato. She's simply thanking Len for having made her life happy. She is not at all displaying this horrible grief about her passing, because she has accepted it. She has accepted it, and to her what's more important than wallowing in that misery is singing a happy song that Len can look back on throughout his life as he grows up without her and smile at. Now, of course, what is special about Proof of Life is not its message, it's not really its anything, though that is all nice, it's its composition. Proof of Life is arguably the most beautiful song I've ever heard in my life. I've ever heard. And if you doubt me when I say it's the most beautiful song I've ever written, I shall just play you any amount of the song, and you will understand. Yeah, so Proof of Life is what we music types call a polyphonic piece of music, and that is that it does not have one melody that runs throughout the song, but it has two. It has, throughout most of the song, there are two melodies going. There is Rin's melody, the melody of Proof of Life, and then and Len's underneath it, which is the melody of Soundless Voice. And they play in tandem. They play in tandem and harmonize and overlap, weaving in and out of these harmonic states that just end up being absolutely breathtakingly gorgeous. And they contrast each other as Rin attempts to sing about peace. She attempts to sing about her feelings of being at ease, and Len is in Soundless Voice singing about how he wishes he could do something to change the scenario. He wishes he could fight it because he loves her and he does not want to lose her. But there's no choice. There's nothing to do but accept and move on. It's a very tragic state of affairs, but it's absolutely breathtaking. Fun fact, I may have said this before. I'm pretty sure I have, but when I was a senior in high school, I performed Soundless Voice Proof of Life. Like, I performed the overlapping polyphonic duet part of the song as my final senior duet with a friend of mine who played the flute. She didn't know what Vocaloid was, but I was just like, the flute harmonizes well with the violin. Here, you play this. And she did, thankfully. She learned it for me. And that's one of the best experiences in my life, was playing that on a stage. And making all the people in the audience who don't know about Vocaloid feel things for a Vocaloid song. Fun little anecdote, but yeah. Proof of Life is just quite simply one of the most beautiful pieces of music I've ever heard. Ever. Like, it's breathtaking. I am a sucker for polyphonic music, and it doesn't get much better than that. Proof of Life is about as perfect as one could be. Hitoshi Suzuki is a genius, and this is his greatest work. As far as I'm concerned, anyway. Next, and moving into the final musics, is Q. Q is the first, but not last, occurrence of Poa Poa P in this collection. And, yeah. Let's start here. Poa Poa P, otherwise known as Shinamoto, was a composer who has a very unique sound. I would most directly liken them to Pinocchio P. If I had to draw a point of comparison to describe the sort of interesting soundscape that they work with. But, of course, very famously, as I'm sure pretty much everyone knows, Poa Poa P passed away in 2013, I think it was. I don't remember the year, actually. But Poa Poa P passed away, and while it is not publicly available, it is very... While it's not publicly available, one could very well guess how he died, and at the very least, he didn't die a very happy man. He died young and very unpleasantly. He was someone who fought with many horrible emotions, like, all throughout their life, and it's reflected in their music, which I think is gorgeous. Of particular note, of course, is Q. Q is a little different from Poa Poa P's, like, discography, right? The rest of Poa Poa P's discography. Q is a song about Poa Poa P expressing their own feelings of the loss of someone that they hold dear. It's about them trying to put their own feelings in order as they say goodbye to someone. And Poa Poa P just has a very good way with words. Like, the Q is the Q in the title could be multiple things. It's Q as in question. It's Q as in suffering, as Q in its own right. Like not the letter Q, but the word Q is like suffering and despair. And the suffering is just the question in question is just trying to sort out the rationalizing, like, one's own feelings of grief and loss. And ultimately, by the end of the song, Poa Poa P is able to say goodbye to this person that meant so much to them, as with what you see on screen. Thank you, good night, congratulations, goodbye, and do your best until I see you again. I think that it is... there's a rawness to Q that makes it really feel like... It really makes it... it really encapsulates, I think, quite well, the, like, gripping feeling of grief in the moment. What it feels like to lose something really precious, and to rationalize the fact that you have to keep living. And I think its ultimate takeaway of having to accept that loss, having to accept that things will be gone, and to try and look ahead is very well said. It is ultimately its composition that I think puts Q over the edge. I think it's... Poa Poa P is a genius in terms of how they're able to construct melodies, and I think comes through extremely well. Q is not the only Poa Poa P song we'll be seeing, but it is extremely powerful. Touches on many of the themes that we've discussed thus far. And now, moving on, past Q, past the horrible, horrible feelings of gut-wrenching loss, we have Vertical Fall, aka my favorite Cosmo Tota song, aka my 6th favorite Vocaloid song ever written. So, where do we start here? This song has everything that is good about every piece of Cosmo Tota music, which is to say that it sounds like heaven, its harmonies are gorgeous, it uses Rin and Len, which is not a duo that Cosmo Tota usually touches, but she makes them harmonize fantastically. But the real thing about Vertical Fall here is that, to me, I think it is such a outstanding work of poetry. The composition is great. It really is. This piece of art is gorgeous. Everything is really good, but boy, oh boy, Cosmo Tota has a way with words that bleeds through this song. The structure of the song is fascinating. It talks about Rin and Len just caring for one another. That's really all the song is about. It's about these two people like attempting to take care of each other. And Rin, the first half of the song is Rin singing about her trying to care for Len, and the second half of the song is Len trying to care for Rin, until ultimately they come together in their conclusion. And there is just such a strong sense of imagery that Cosmo Tota is able to employ in this song. Rin says, like, in the first chorus, there's lines where Rin says things like, moving past the flower petals, I will, like, stretch out my arms to reach you. How many times have they been broken? How many times have my arms been broken from the fall? It's more than I could say, but I will keep catching you as long as it takes. And that sentiment is echoed in the second chorus, when Len says things like, ignoring, like, the falling debris, I pull you close to me. Like, in the fall, how many times has my body been broken as I try to keep you close? There's such a beautiful way that Cosmo Tota uses language and imagery. Like, everything that happens in the song is metaphorical. They describe, like, the gathering of light and the falling through flower petals as these two people try and draw close. And that is ultimately the final line, the final, like, imagery of the song, is ignoring all else, I draw me to you. For as long as we are together and we are holding each other, we need not catch each other, for we will be there in each other's arms. And ultimately, I think this song is, of the many songs that were conveying a feeling of closeness, a feeling of love, I think Vertical Fall does it sort of the best. It was really funny. I made a video about Cosmo Tota a long time ago, a pretty long time ago. And I talk about, like, a lot of the music, but this song, Vertical Fall, came out very shortly after, and I didn't get a chance to talk about it. And it was so funny because it came out and it immediately became my favorite piece of work that she's ever done. And to this day, for all the many wonderful Cosmo Tota pieces there are, Vertical Fall is a diamond. It is platinum. It does not rust. I could listen to it forever. There's something so beautiful to every element of its composition. I could talk all day about the cascading eighth notes in the upper register of the piano that play all throughout the song, that phonically paint the image of these two falling. It's just, Cosmo Tota is, like, not telling you a story. She's not telling you a song. She is painting. She is painting with sounds. And to that end, it's almost more like I feel Cosmo Tota more than I hear her. She's just built different, and this song is truly, truly, truly something spectacular that I thoroughly recommend everyone seek out if they haven't. Even if you have, listen to it again. I definitely will once this is all over. Moving on past my favorite Cosmo Tota song, my 5th favorite Vocaloid song is my favorite Nikki song. I've talked about the song before on my old top 10 favorite Vocaloid songs video, and also a little bit on my Nikki video. And this song is Jitter Doll. Jitter Doll is my favorite Nikki song, one of my favorite songs ever written. And what is Jitterdoll? Jitterdoll is much like Vertical Fall, actually. It doesn't really have a narrative. It uses a lot of imagery to paint a scene of a dystopic world, of a world that is falling apart and like barely hanging on by threads. But in that world that is so ruined, still, there are just little sparks of life. There are little sparks of brilliance that remind people of what used to be so precious. And in those little moments, in those little things, we find Jitterdoll's ultimate thesis. That as much as the world sucks, for as ruined as it can be, even the littlest bit of hope, even the littlest bit of light can still be nurtured into something beautiful. The world can always come back from despair, so long as we continue to have faith in even a little bit. The tiniest scrap of hope can cascade out into this wonderful, wonderful, all-encompassing feeling. The chorus speaks from... The speaker seems to be sort of mechanical, almost, right? And the speaker, in their mechanical state, comments on how they see little sparks throughout the chaos. And what is the name of that? What was that? Oh, that was what people used to call love. People resist temptation, and people continue to fight against the darknesses of the world. What is that? That is what people used to call life. People continue to keep believing, even in spite of overwhelming adversity. People continue to strive towards something more. What is that? People used to call that God. What is it? People continue to live in spite of the fear. That is what is called being human. It just deconstructs these ideas and reconstructs them, for that matter, of how little elements of faith and belief can come together to form something really marvelous, all while being jaw-droppingly well composed. The chorus of Jitterdoll affects the soul in ways that not many other things do. It is so strong in Lily's absolutely marvelous belting. There's not much that paralyzes me the way that Jitterdoll paralyzes me. At the end of the day, it's a very similar song in many things, in composition, in tone, in meaning, as Dependent. And I like Dependent quite a lot, but Jitterdoll is the calcified, perfect encompassment. That's definitely not a word, but the perfect sum totality of everything good about Niki's music. And as far as I'm concerned, there is no further resounding message. There's no more beautiful thing that Niki has ever said or could say than is Jitterdoll. It's just that good. Definitely the best Lily song, and definitely my favorite Niki song. There are not many left. And in there not being many left, that means we still have to do Kagura Project speedrunning. No, I'll take a little bit here. So, fourth favorite song is Aino's Theory of Happiness. And, I've said it. I've said what more is there to say for me about Kagura Project songs many times throughout this video. And of course, that is my first immediate thought here, is that we get to Aino's Theory of Happiness, and yes, this is my favorite Kagura Project song. This is one of my favorite pieces of music ever. All of this is true. I've made a full at-length video about Aino's Theory of Happiness and how deeply it affected me as a person. I've talked about it in many cascading sequences of events in various things. I talked about the Kagura Project. I talked about how Aino Tateyama is a hero. I talked about all these things, and they're all true. Aino's Theory of Happiness tells a narrative. It weaves a story that, to this day, I find more personally affecting than many things. Aino's Theory of Happiness is special because not only is it telling this wonderful story about a girl becoming a hero and doing her best to cope with an unreasonable world and inspiring people who truly hurt and truly need a helping hand. Not only is it doing that, but this song has personally led me through some like character arcs of my own in my days. You know, it is truly marvelous seeing the work of Ayano Tateyama ripple out ever more into more and more lives and more people. She's the epicenter of so much in the story, and she is the spark of so much good that it truly is marvelous. And to this day, to this very day, I think the second chorus of Ayano's Theory of Happiness is profoundly painful. It is extremely hard to listen to the second chorus as Ayano runs into the Kagero days, hoping for the future, but also rationalizing that this is her only option. Believing while also having this unbelievable self-doubt. And I think Shiru does such a great job at conveying the agony in her eyes in that moment as she runs forward. Ayano's Theory of Happiness is a song about a hero, and to that end, to conveying the emotions therein and everything that it meant to be a good person through the eyes of Ayano Tateyama and the journey that she went through. It's about as perfect could be, you know. I think that, like, let me convey something here. I think that Lost on Memory is like a more perfect song in the sense that, like, Lost on Memory is like by a text in like textbook definition, like as perfect could be. But while Ayano's Theory of Happiness is less perfect than Lost on Memory, it is so sincere and so good. It is so pleasant in its desire to do good that it really ends up being something that doesn't have peer, doesn't have comparison. It's a good one. Jin did a good thing making this song, and I will always love it forever. I love you, Ayano. Goodbye. My second favorite song is Irony. No, my third favorite song is Irony. I don't know, I can't read. So yeah, also surprising, and part of the reason I wanted to make this whole collection of music is because I have a song, or I have a video where I describe, I have multiple videos actually, where I describe Irony as being my favorite piece of music. I use B roll of Irony in pretty much every video I make. Irony was my favorite piece of music for many years. It has only recently been dethroned by two pieces of music. But I still think Irony is like an incredible masterpiece. It so thoroughly examines like dejection. I think its imagery is striking and some of the best. One of the best PVs ever. It is so dense in using various things to convey its message. That being that one can't simply like be tagged along by life. One can't dig their heels in the sand and pretend that they're living as they try and reject the world around them. You need to keep walking forward. You need to keep expanding. And it's only through that one is truly alive. It does this through so many different symbols. It is truly always conveying its message in a way that is more dense and more deft than a lot of things, period. But that alone would be doing it a disservice. It also has a wonderful composition. I think Scop is a genius. The panning of the instruments and the harmonies is superb. I think listening to Irony is just a fantastic sonic experience, in addition to being like a stimulating one. And all of it comes together to be something that just feels, that I think just conveys its aimlessness very well. When I first heard Irony, I definitely liked it, but it wasn't my favorite. Like, I didn't hear it and wasn't just struck, by like, this is one of the best things ever. I heard it and was like, this is a pretty good song. But I kept hearing it. I kept hearing it, and it grew and grew. And was like, no, there's so much more to love. Every time I hear it, there's something else to appreciate about Irony and its construction, and it's so deft at so many things. That's really what makes Irony a all-time lasting favorite. it's the combination of so many pieces working together to make this beautiful, beautiful piece of art. Fun fact, I made a video about, I do have a video that is dedicated to analyzing irony, and that video was my midterm, was submitted, I made it like as a midterm piece for one of my college classes at the time. It was fun to just make an analysis video and be able to submit it as schoolwork. But yes, for more of my thoughts, I definitely suggest, I actually don't really suggest because I don't know if that's a good video. I haven't watched it in like years, but the video I made about irony is sure to convey more of my feelings. I think this song will always be special in my heart, even if it's not my literal favorite anymore. It's just doing so much, so well. Irony's a gem, always will be. My second favorite song is another song by Pinocchio P. And by Pinocchio P, I mean Poa Poa P. It's just not Pinocchio P at all. So, yeah, I said at Q that there was more Poa Poa P music, and this is it. Equation is my favorite song by Poa Poa P and my second favorite Vocaloid song ever. Equation is it's interesting and special because much like how I talked about how a lot of the Nedu pieces that I like were striking because they were songs that really had light in them from a composer who so often focused on the dark and the negative. And Equation is one of those. Poa Poa P is a composer who is steeped in tragedy. He is steeped in like uncomfortable tragedy and coping, and at the best, his messages are bittersweet. But Equation really builds up to what is ultimately just a strong profession of what it means to fall in love with someone. So there's a difference. It's not like Plain Theory, which is just conveying, it's not just conveying how much you love someone. Equation is constructing what it means to fall in love with someone. I think that the entirety of this song, in addition to just sounding great, right? It builds up to this wonderful, wonderful conclusion where it says, where it ties into what the title Equation means, where you get to the ending, where it says goodbye and good morning. I'm sorry and thank you. Big fat drops of tears and your hands in mine. I'll add them and subtract them, divide them and multiply them again and divide them, subtract them and add them again and again and again. When you mix everything together, love, the unknown variable, is born. So what is the equation? The equation in the title is, it is the equation for love. It is describing what it means to fall in love with someone. And what does Poa Poa P say that equation is? Love is not made up of big, life-changing moments between people. It's made up of good mornings and goodbyes, thank yous and I'm sorries, your hand in mine. Tiny moments. It's through the little things, over and over again. When you add them and subtract them and divide them and multiply them and mix them all together, all these little moments, that's what love is. Love is when these tiny happinesses all come together in your life and coalesce into a single thing. That's what love is. That's what Poa Poa P says is love. And I think that profession of love, that definition that is carved through this song, is really profound. It's not merely the conclusion he reaches, but the way he says it. The way he describes that just this mix-up, this mess of tiny things is what makes people, it is what it means to be happy, is what it means to fall in love, is beautiful. It really goes to show you that, you know, for as much of a tortured soul as Poa Poa P was, for as unfortunate and like untimely as his passing was, and for as much as I'm sure he was full of grief, he really knew beauty as well. because that's really what I feel when listening to Equation rather. Equation is gorgeous, and is something I will hold to my heart forever. Absolutely one of the best songs ever written. And now there's only one song left, and I've said this before, but my favorite Vocaloid song is "I Want to Be Your Heart" by Yuri Cannon. Yeah. So, I mean, I've said that this is my favorite Vocaloid song before, so it shouldn't be too surprising. But "I Want to Be Your Heart" is my favorite Vocaloid song now. "I Want to Be Your Heart" is a story that tells of two girls, Yuma. No, I can't remember their names. They didn't have names when the song came out. It was developed in I think it's like Ruri and Yuma. It's something like that. But it tells of the relationship between two girls who came to meet each other, and then one of them dies, and the other girl has to live with it. And, you know, if you dive into, like, expanded Tsukiyomi lore, their story gets better. When you tack on things like, if there's not such a life and reason for existence, you know, those songs retroactively make "I Want to Be Your Heart" even better, where you can learn about what exactly the relationship between these two was, and what that meant to them. But I think I think this song just perfectly surmises everything that I like, kind of, period. It's a girl's love story that talks about grief and coping with loss. It talks about accepting it because loss is unavoidable. It talks about, like, the beauty of connection and love, how that can save someone, how even, like, the tiniest act can be meaningful to another person. And it does it all very poetically. In the final refrain and chorus, there's so many tiny moments that I think really become affecting when placed in context. There's lines like, "Within my hell, you are the light without fail. Just as you were for me, I want to become your heart." That's the title is referring to the desire of the speaker to one day be able to help another person as much as the girl who saved her life did, even though she's gone, because she was never able to become the light for her in return. It has so many just cascading elements in it that are exactly the kind of things that I like. I mean, if you look at the songs that I've cataloged for everyone today, I don't think it should be a surprise that "I Want to Be Your Heart" is number one. It is kind of the sum totality of everything that I like about music. It is a driving, beautiful rock ballad about these two girls who found love, and how that saved them, and also how you have to live when that all comes crumbling down. And to that end, it's fantastic. It's gorgeous. I thoroughly recommend this song, of course. And I would also recommend, if anyone has not, listen to the rest of Tsukiyomi's catalog, because, like, as I said, these girls, like, this story that is told about these girls continues in Tsukiyomi's Music as a Band, where they continue to make music about them. And in fact, one comes out tomorrow at the time of doing this. There is a new Tsukiyomi song that is presumably going to tie into this story as well. But yeah, I think all the nuance I think this song, in the time it has, touches on so many of the things that I like, that this song is just perfectly catered to my sensibilities, and I will love it forever. And with that, the last tab has finally been opened. The last tab has finally been opened and closed, and this extremely long examination of my 50 favorite Vocaloid songs has come to a close. My voice is hoarse. It is horribly hoarse. I sound like a dying frog. And, you know, that's just how it be. But, you know, such is the cost of love. Such is the cost of examining the things you love. I hope that this was insightful to someone. If nothing else, this will forever be a memorial to, much like Hajime no Oto was describing, this will forever be a memorial to the thoughts that I had on this day. It will be a lasting testament to what I thought was important and what I think is important in Vocaloid. The thumbnail's poo-poo. I made it very quickly so I could have this live stream, and I will make a better one. Anyway, I hope that everyone has a wonderful day, and I really hope everyone can listen to this music, because it affected me. And if it affected me, then surely it might have the potential to affect you at home too. So, good luck and good tidings, everyone. I need to like drink a gallon of water and stop speaking for at least a couple hours, because if not, I don't, I may never speak again. Good luck to you all, and I'll see you on the flip side. Bye, Yanara.